Good evening. Welcome to the Lompoc City Council meeting. This is Tuesday, September 20th, 2016. It is 6:30 p.m. If I can remind everyone to silence their pagers and cell phones. Madam Clerk, could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Mosby.
Present.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Present.
Councilmember Holmdahl.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Victor Vega.
Here.
Mayor Bob Lingle.
Here. Please rise and join us in the invocation. Anita Friedman. Is Anita here? Okay.
Hey, Bob.
Then I will. Okay. Heavenly Father, thank you for being with us this evening. We are here for a city council meeting. We want to have you guide us through the business of this meeting. We want you to welcome the visitors and speakers to come up and speak their opinions. Let us know how we are doing on the city council and how our city is doing. Please also think of all of our firefighters throughout the entire nation, especially here in California and Santa Barbara County, that are fighting some terrible fires going on right now. Please be with them, think of their fathers, and be with us ever. Amen. Please remain standing and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I presented a proclamation to, it was Surf Connection on the celebration of their 25th anniversary. I did that on September 10th. And this evening I'd like to present a proclamation in honor of National Recovery Month. Do we have someone here? Have someone here?
There's somebody.
Okay, why don't you come forward, please? Hi, I'm Bob. Okay, this is a proclamation for National Recovery Month. Whereas the month of September 2016 has been declared National Recovery Month, and whereas the focus of National Recovery Month and Coast Valley's Recovery Day in the park this September is to celebrate the journey with a theme, Join the Voices for Recovery, Our Families, Our Stories, Our Recovery. And whereas Recovery Month spreads the message that behavioral health is essential to the health of one's overall wellness, and that prevention works, treatment is effective, and people recover. The impact of mental and/or substance use disorders is apparent in our local community, and as an element of 5,000 people in Lompoc are affected by this condition. And whereas through Recovery Month and the Coast Valley's Treatment Center Recovery Day in the Park event, people become more aware and able to recognize the signs of mental and/or substance use disorders, which can lead more people to the needed treatment. Managing the effects of these conditions can help people achieve healthy lifestyles, both physically and emotionally. Whereas Recovery Month observance continues to work to improve the lives of those affected by the mental and/or substance disorders by raising awareness of these diseases and educating communities about the prevention, treatment, and recovery resources that are available. Now therefore, I, Bob Lingle, Mayor, City of Lompoc, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2016 as National Recovery Month. Congratulations. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Luis Gonzalez. Chuck Madison regrets not being able to be here. He is actually in LA picking up supplies for Recovery Day in the park this weekend. I know that it's Chuck's dream and goal to help the community. You know, he wanted me to recognize the Parks and Recs for allowing us to have it at Ryan Park and working with us. His dream is just to help the community and help those in need who suffer from addiction, and the people So the crime rate goes down in our community by helping these addicts who have issues with addiction. I know it's Matt Hamlin and Pastor Craig. They started this company 14 years ago, and their dream was to help the community, help those in need. We have the food bank that we feed the homeless, and a gift box that we have our thrift store at, that people can come and grab whatever they need, blankets, food, or whatever. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to move on to the city manager's report. We're going to do it. Ms. Teresa Gallivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I just wanted to echo a sentiment that we've heard from many folks over the last several days, sharing our gratitude for the firefighters working to contain the Canyon fire. The city of Lompoc joined that fight with 1 engine and 1 crew. The airport has been hosting the incident helibase. Our business community has donated food. There has been tremendous support from Lompoc, and I just want to express my gratitude and appreciation.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, public comment on the consent calendar. It's your opportunity to speak to us for up to 3 minutes on anything on the consent calendar. Seeing no one, yes, consent calendar? No, this would not be the consent calendar for you, okay. Okay, seeing no one rise, we're going to close the consent or public comment, and we're going to move it to the council. The consent calendar consists of things that are generally considered routine and will be approved by 1 motion by council member unless a council member chooses to pull an item. Is there any item that a council member wishes to pull? Seeing no one, I will entertain a motion.
I move we accept you, all, I guess there's 4 of them. Is that right, or 5? Yeah, 3.
The consent calendar.
Consent calendar.
Okay.
I'll second all 3.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Let's vote.
Press your button, buddy.
Vote again. Okay, that passes 5-0. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, staff presentations. Ms. Lucille Breeze is going to give us an update on zoning setback rights.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is an item that was brought forward as council request. And in this presentation, we will take a look at zoning setbacks, right-of-way, and private property. So we wanted to start with some definitions. Right-of-way, as shown, is an area acquired or reserved for streets, drainage, utilities, and pedestrian ways. An easement is a right to cross or otherwise use someone else's land for a specified purpose, such as ingress or egress or utility installation and maintenance. A setback is the distance by which a building or structure is placed from the property line. So we do have standards in engineering standards that show what our current right-of-way requirement is, and some of these requirements have been in place for quite some time, and there are also right-of-way requirements that are different in different parts of the city, and we have our city engineer here who can certainly address any issues that the council may have if you have questions regarding the right-of-way requirements, how they differ from the different type of street designations. The designations for the streets are listed in our circulation element in the general plan. Development standards, these are our zoning requirements, and these are generally setbacks begin at the end of a right-of-way. For a single-family home, we have a maximum building site coverage. We have requirements as far as separation between structures on the same lot, setbacks that are required from property lines. Those are generally for public safety access and to ensure that you don't have one property being infringed upon by another property. And we have different standards for corner lots. There's different standards in different zoning ordinance designations. So there's a number of requirements that need to be met when you're looking at any kind of a property and how people can develop on their own personal property. What we had brought before the council was an issue that was in code enforcement, and the gentleman had constructed an accessory structure in his rear yard, and that was done without benefit of permits, so that the structure was never reviewed before it was constructed. That's the aerial view, and it's a little hard to see. So what we've done is to show you a setback exhibit, which helps, hopefully, to identify where these right-of-way lines are, where property lines are, and you can see to the left in the red, that would be the front yard setback. To the top, the green is the side yard setback on a corner lot. And in the purple, we have the rear yard setback, and in the light blue is the side yard setback. Generally, you end up with 5-foot side yard setbacks, which allows space between properties for access and for privacy. They are larger in the single family, and they do vary some, but this is a general layout that will show you where structures are allowed to be constructed. It's the building area that is within those hatched lines. So what occurred was the house, let me go back maybe. The house is set and situated there within that building envelope. And to the rear, the accessory structure that was put in did not meet the distance requirements. And when we had a code enforcement issue, the staff looked at what we had, and there's a single family residential. The lot size is 6,500. The code enforcement began with an illegal discharge, and when looking at the property, it was determined that what had caused the illegal discharge was an unpermitted hot tub. The property owner was advised that he needed to have building permits, and he did submit 4 building permits for the hot tub, for the equipment to operate the equipment, or the hot tub, and the accessory structure that had been constructed. This shows the side yard, the street side yard. And this is just showing the building permit history that we have at the city that shows we had no permits on file. What our current building permit situation is that the gentleman did apply for a building permit for the hot tub and the structure. However, it has expired, and once he submitted, comments were returned by staff. He did do some corrections. However, he never completed the building permit process. He did then apply for a demolition permit to remove the accessory structure. That was issued, and the permit is still valid until January. The code violations were including the height of the fence. The fence is allowed to be 6 feet. It is extended beyond that. The accessory structure, there's a restriction on the corner lot. It can be no closer than 18 feet from the property line. There's a jacuzzi within the setback, and there's also the unpermitted structure. So the code violations are identified, and the resolution to them is listed in the far corner or far column. So just to explain to the council how these things came to be, and these are the type of issues that are going to be discussed during the current zoning ordinance update, where we'll be looking at setbacks for all of the zones, trying to make sure that our setbacks, they are old at this time, and we want to make sure that they're consistent throughout the community so that we can have standards that are appropriate and guard for the neighboring properties and make sure everyone has use of their property as they would like to see. So generally what we would think, we would proceed with these violations and work with the applicant and then identify the issues that need to be remedied when we come to our, as we are in the middle now of our zoning ordinance update. So that concludes my staff report. I'm available for any questions. Also, Mr. Luther is here if you have any questions about right-of-ways.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Who did the measurements on the setbacks?
They were done through our engineering department, our GIS.
Because we're aware that the property lines up there are not in accordance with where our streets are and the fence lines, et cetera. If you were to take a GPS and go up there, you're going to find, and I've stated before, the properties vary on the surveying. This problem was addressed back in 2013. We're reliving it again. We can't measure off a fence that's in the wrong spot to begin with. So I just can't buy that this is legitimate.
The measurement wasn't off the fence. It came from the street, the center of the street.
It's still, you're basing it on property lines here, the center of the street. Okay. We also noticed looking at this that setbacks on this case would be for visual. Well, the fence is several feet above that. Is the street in the right spot too if the property lines aren't?
The street information came off the map from the project.
That's where the mistake happened, is in the project. I've seen maps with the actual property lines on them. They're not available now for some reason. I haven't been able to get another one. But when you look at the overlay on this and with the GPS coordinates, one of his neighbors is missing 40 foot of his yard. So this whole thing is a mess.
See, Mr. Luther, do you have anything to add to this?
I'm not aware of the issue Mr. Starbuck's talking about. The drawing is based on the existing right-of-way. I'm not sure what error he's talking about.
Is there any way we could resolve and come to a,
Well, this isn't an issue with the right-of-way, it's an issue with encroaching in the setback.
okay, thank you. Mr. Whitmore, did you have anything you'd like to say?
Where could I begin? Honorable Mayor, City Council members, thank you for this opportunity. The picture was just up on their street. My fence is too high, then it failed to say that it's sitting on top of a 6-foot retaining wall for my property. So yeah, the fence looks a little high when you're standing at the street. In reference to the property lines, I had asked the city for a aerial survey of my property, and they gave it to me. It had nothing on it. A council member asked for the same thing, and it has all kinds of lines on it and where setbacks and where property lines are according to our GPS satellites, which I think most of us require or realize are pretty darn accurate. So the information I asked from the city, I get nothing. Information a council member asks has lots of detail in it. That doesn't help this problem. This problem started in 1978. I put in this hot tub and deck and a fence, and no one did that under a permit in 1978. Now they don't do it under permit because you go to Costco and have it delivered and put in your backyard and you plug it in. So I think some of the code needs to be reevaluated. It has to be reasonable. They ask for a 5-foot setback on your side of your property. Are you going to put a sear shed 5 foot from your property line, or are you going to stuck it up next to it so you don't waste that space? Because if you leave it space back there, you pile junk in there. Then that creates a health hazard and a fire hazard. So some of these setbacks, they need to be reasonable and accommodating to the property owners, not the bureaucracy. I don't know what to say about what the presentation. It told me absolutely nothing, and I lived there. And I got nothing off of that presentation. I have 2 copies of a map with and without the satellite service, and I'll be happy to pass it down to you, but I would like to have it back, if you'd like it.
Does anyone want to see it? I think Councilman Starbuck has seen it, so.
Thank you.
Okay. So, well, there's no action we're asked to take on this. Councilor Starbuck, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
You know, maybe a suggestion here is until we get the zoning ordinance done, we could abstain from taking action on this and other setbacks. There's been several over the years incidences of somebody putting up a fence. The city comes in and says, your fence is too close to our easement. All of a sudden, the guy has a 4-foot front yard. This is going to be, it's going to have to get fixed in the zoning ordinance. And to go ahead and continue to violate people and have them move fences and all that, I think we should just stop until the zoning ordinance is approved.
Mr. City Attorney, give us some advice on that. Is that some action we could take?
Well, because of this, the way this item was on the agenda, you can't take an action tonight.
Right.
You could direct staff to come back to you with a suggestion to put some kind of a suspension on code enforcement on particular matters that you want to have that suspension for.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so, Councilor Starbuck, would you like to make that motion? You can bring it back.
I'd like to make the motion, but I'm not sure how to word it. I mean, would I word this as a suspension of, because now you don't want to carte blanche it where everybody could go out and,
You can make a request that it comes back to council to suggest a suspension.
right, but at the same time, I don't think that's where all of a sudden we should allow people to run out and they start building sheds and say, oh, here we go, we got 2 years till the zoning ordinance is done either. So, I mean,
I understand, but you'll need to tell us what you want to have the suspension apply to, so.
Why don't we just do it on his, can we ask to do it just on his property alone? Can we suspend just Mr. Whitmore's action? No, okay.
Okay, I'd like to, get a request that we go ahead and, suspend the setbacks on the code enforcement until we have the approved setbacks on the zoning ordinance.
I'll second that.
Okay. And
So what will, well, let's see what happens with the motion.
we need a third on that.
I'll third it.
Okay, we have a third, okay.
So what you want to have come back to you is an item for you to be able to take an action, for you to suspend code enforcement actions on anything dealing with single-family dwelling setbacks?
Well, anything that deals with a setback as far as fencing, the installation of fence. Anybody that goes to put up a new fence now obviously knows they have to go get a permit to do it.
So the suspension would be for anything that exists as of today,
As of
that would
today.
have a suspension on any code enforcement?
Or when we vote on it when it comes back.
Okay, whichever. And do you want it to apply to everywhere, or single-family zones, or
Across the board. There was an
everywhere,
issue.
everywhere, commercials, residential, whatever?
It's the same setback for.
I'm just asking, I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
arguing, I'm
it's-
just trying to find
The
out.
zoning ordinance is carte blanche across the board here. I mean, there's guys that put up fences at a fourplex that, it's across the board.
So is that the understanding of the other two, the seconder and the third?
Mr. Vega, Mr.,
I do have one question here. Is it possible to say we wanted just to do one quadrant, which could have been the southwest area of Lompoc? Would that suffice also, or do we want to just make it a blanket rule for now?
Well, over the last few years, this has happened in various areas of town with different things. So, I think it should be kind of one rule, one city,
Councilmember Humdahl.
Well, I agree with Dirk on that, because it's been all over town. You got to realize the surveyors weren't really as sharp 25, 30 years ago as they are today, and the equipment they have. But anyway, this has happened. You'll run into it all the time. So I think it'd be a good time. It'd be community-wide when we set it up and work with it.
I'd like to just make one more statement. Mr. Whitmore, if you'd make yourself available, if anybody had any questions about this, I think it's kind of interesting that when you look at that one map that you have, that your eaves are in your neighbor's yard.
I'll be glad to talk with anyone. No one from the city has come to me, and it's my property. I would like to talk to someone that's going to make a decision on me and my property. I think that'd be really good. I might ask, this is not just a question of a fence, it's a question of that hot tub and that deck and that storage building is there, and where the heater is put next to a chain link fence and now it has to be moved. There's a lot of goofy things in that. The chain link fence is not going to burn up from a zero clearance heater. Yeah, but I'll be happy to talk with anyone. Thank you.
Councilmember Vega.
I have a question for Mr. Whitmore. We see up here that you pulled a demolition permit.
Yes, I was told that I had to pull a permit and had 60 days to remove the storage shed that was on the hot tub deck.
When we made the-
because it was
I'm sorry.
in the wrong place, the 18-foot setback.
So your direction as of now, you're still on hold pattern, is that correct?
Yes, that was put on hold, a stay of execution, shall we say?
Yeah, I know,
until-
and I believe that's what we asked for the last time, and
Yes,
that's what we
and
said
that
until we
is
reached a
still-
resolution.
That is still there, as far as I know. No one has come bound to tell me otherwise.
So direction-wise, what's your direction at this
My
time?
direction is, leave me alone, let me have that building and the hot tub that was put in 1978. That's 38 years ago.
Thank you.
Sometimes something gets grandfathered in this life. I think that needs to be considered in this town. There's a lot of people that have done something a long time ago that doesn't make them bad.
So my question here to the council here is, where does that leave Mr. Whitmore with Councilman Starbuck's motion?
There's nothing happening tonight. It's coming back to the council with Councilman Starbuck's request, so we're not taking any action tonight. Okay. Ms. Breeze.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, Council. Just to be clear, what we're talking about is you want to see us return with information regarding setback information and waiving a requirement until the zoning ordinance is in process, or the completion of the zoning ordinance, for any district in town for any setback?
If I may, not waiving, suspending any enforcement action on current violations. So if a new project comes in, they have to meet current setbacks.
So it's just suspending enforcement on code enforcement? I'm sorry, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Right?
Councilman Starbuck said yes. Okay, that was easy. Okay, oral communication. This is your opportunity to speak to us for up to 3 minutes on any item you so choose. Please come forward, come to the microphone, state your name, and address the council.
Hi, I'm here to talk about the sidewalk and curb ramp project that's pending. My name is Randy Miller. My wife and Barbara and I have owned and operated Miller Landscaping and Maintenance in Lompoc for nearly 30 years. About 4 years ago, we purchased a house at 210 North G Street. One of the greatest assets to the property is the 2 mature English walnut trees in the front yard. There should be a picture up here shortly. There we go. Not only are they the focal point of the yard, as you can see, they contribute to the character of the neighborhood and provide afternoon shade to the house and front porch. They essentially are the front yard. With the lawn dying and allowed to die, that's about all that's left is those 2 trees. As written, this project calls for demolition of these historic trees to install a new sidewalk. Even though the minimal foot traffic in the neighborhood already uses the existing sidewalk across the street. The planned destruction of these and the other trees on the block would be a tragedy that would take decades to recover from. If you can appreciate aesthetics, and if you assign any value to our rights as property owners, you will find a way to save our trees. Please take a moment, drive by, and picture this property in the neighborhood without these trees and reconsider removing them.
So are these trees up and down the block?
Pardon me?
Are these trees up and down the entire street?
There's more of these, yeah. They're not like spaced regularly.
Okay,
There's
so
2 here, there's a couple in the next block to the south, and I think another one of these in the same block a little bit north.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Next, please. Step forward, state your name, address the council.
Oops, maybe 2. Good evening, John Lynn, speaking on behalf of the Lompoc Valley Parks, Recreation, and Pool Foundation, Chairman. During the Motorsports Park project design, the city requested a site plan of the park showing debris piles and their locations. The Motorsports Committee requested permission from the city to mow seasonal weeds and grasses. The city said that that could not be done without biological review and approval from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Because part of the property is in a mitigation area, as the biological review was going to be part of the environmental impact report, the committee chose not to proceed. During the first 2 weeks of August, I went to the park site to refresh my memory regarding the vegetation growth around the skydive landing area. During the visit, I noted the vegetation on an aerial photograph of the park site, copy attached. Pictures were also previously provided at the city's request covering the entire proposed park site, See pictures 54 through 61 in the picture set showing the parachute landing area. On September 12th, I again went to the park site to refresh my memory, as I'd been out of town, for the upcoming meeting to discuss the parachute landing area. I was surprised to find that extensive mowing had been conducted to expand and clear the area around the parachute landing area. At that time, I assumed that the mowing had been done by city workers with environmental clearance. On September 15th, during a city staff scheduled visit to the park site, I asked the airport manager, Richard Fernbaugh, if the city had done the mowing. He stated the city had not done the mowing. He also stated that David Hughes had asked him about site mowing, and Richard had stated that an environmental clearance would be required from the city. On September 19th, I talked to Stacy Lawson at City Hall and asked if an environmental clearance had been issued. Stacy stated that no environmental clearance had been issued for any mowing on the lower bench area of the airport. When I was there on September 15th, I also made a detailed site walk of the property and found that about 90 mature bushes of various species had been mowed within the mitigation area, and about 60 mature bushes had been mowed outside where I estimate the mitigation area boundary was located. And I have attached a copy of the city drawing for the mitigation area. Some of the mature bushes of various species were appeared to have been mowed on the mitigation area within the Bureau of Prisons property. The foundation requests that the council direct staff to determine if a California Department of Fish and Wildlife environmental release was obtained prior to the mowing. If required clearances were not obtained, further direct staff to investigate who authorized or paid for the mowing and provided access, and the conclusion of the investigation, cite or prosecute the violators in accordance with the applicable laws.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, please. Come forward, speak into the mic, state your name.
Hello, Mike Sewell, lifelong resident. I'm here, unfortunately, once again to talk about shopping carts. What's not being addressed is that this issue is costing taxpayer money. I talked to a very nice lady at the city, but she couldn't tell me how much money had been wasted on this ordinance to date. So using public salary information, I've estimated with the city manager at $240,000 a year. He's the highest paid man in Lompoc, although I notice he's not here tonight. It's too bad. To city staff, to city lawyer, city council, the lowest paid guys in town. Time writing it, reading it, having meetings about it. It's cost about $7 per minute spent on this, in my opinion, dumb idea. That's over $400 an hour. Now, this is the seventh council meeting since it was proposed, which means at least $7,000 in my guesstimation. But because government is involved and we have no idea, it could be twice that, $14,000, $15,000, who knows? Not to mention special meetings and business owners' time wasted. Every issue is bigger than shopping carts. Budget deficits, parks, rising utility rates, homeless issues, taking care of our great cops and our awesome firefighters. Every dollar spent on this issue is money not spent on them. Mayor Bob, this was your idea. I don't know why you look around Lompoc and see only urban blight. That's not how I see Lompoc. A very stupid politician recently stated that Lompoc was the armpit of the county. I hope that you don't see it that way, Mayor Bob, just because of a few stray, feral shopping carts. Get city government off the backs of small family businesses. Let's cut red tape, not make more. And please, stop trying to fix this. You take fees out, you put fees in, you make it longer, you make it shorter. Don't put any more pink bows on this hippopotamus. It's time to let it go. Please, no more dumb ideas. It's okay to admit when you're wrong. No apology necessary, Mayor Bob, but just do the right thing. And please vote this down right here, right now, tonight. No more money spent on it, please. Please show real leadership. Don't let your legacy be mayor shopping cart. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, please. Step forward, speak in the mic, address the council.
Mayor, city council, city staff. Wrong page, there we go. My name is James Decker, but most of you probably know me as Rusty. I'm a lifelong resident. I'm here firstly to thank the council and city staff and the police department for trying to help me settle an ongoing problem with Smitty's towing. Briefly, my trailer was stolen, a utility trailer. From my home, I reported the theft to Lompoc police. Approximately a month later, a Good Samaritan reported the trailer to the police. It was found in an alley between the 500 blocks of G and H streets. The officer said he called to tell me of the recovery. I have no record of the call except maybe a private number, which, as you know, I can't return, and no message was left. So I didn't know the trailer had been found. 3 days later, I received a letter via snail mail from the police saying that the trailer had been found and that I could pick it up at Smitty's Towing. I went immediately to get the trailer. Smitty's was not open. It was a 3-day weekend, the Labor Day weekend, so they didn't open until Tuesday. So I went on Tuesday, September 6th, to get my trailer. Smitty's told me that I owed him $750 in order to get the trailer. I was stunned. Then the man at the counter said I had to bring down the pink slip of the trailer, or else they would continue to add charges at a rate of $82.50 per day. I told Smitty's I was going to pursue getting my trailer through the city of Lompoc. The guy at Smitty's said, to avoid more charges, you need to bring the pink slip down immediately. It has to be here before 5. If it's not here before 5, charges will continue. So I brought my pink slip down. I signed it over. However, after the sale of the trailer, I would be sent to collections for the remainder of the $750, which is owed at the time that I went down there. I felt as if I was being strong-armed, but I went to city staff and the police chief for help. They tried to assist me by agreeing to pay the towing fees of $245 and by requesting Smitty's to drop his storage fees. The same day we found out that the city attorney's office, from the city attorney's office, that Smitty's had refused to comply, we got a letter from the collections office of Smitty's in Canyon Country. Now it turns out, even though we turned over the ownership of the trailer to Smitty's, they have continued to charge me for storage daily. As of September 14th, I owe $1,317.50. They also state in the letter that by the time they sell the trailer, they estimate that I will owe them $2,790. I don't know how they can get away with this. I was a victim of a crime. I had my trailer stolen. I was a victim of a crime because Smitty's basically stole my trailer a second time, and now I'm a victim the third time because I'm being reported to a credit reporting agency for almost $3,000. Here's what I think should happen. If you need to change some policies with the city of Lompoc, a victim of a crime should never have to pay recovery fees for their vehicle. The victim should be called or given some quick notice that the police have found the vehicle so they can pick it up, and it wouldn't have to be towed. The victim should have a period of time, maybe 24 to 48 hours, to get their property before the property is given to another criminal who intends to steal it again, and then, send you to a collection agency. The storage fees the Lompoc towing and storage fees are the highest in the country, and I don't understand that, and I don't know who negotiates the contracts, but I think that something needs to be done.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. And go ahead, Councilman Starbuck.
Mr. Decker, you said you've been talking to the city now. Have we been able to do anything about this? Smells like old fish. It stinks.
Councilman Starbuck, we reached out to Smitty's. Captain Mariani actually talked to both owners, and we sent them a letter indicating what we think should occur, and we have not heard back from them. I agree with Mr. Decker. There's some changes on our part, the city. When an officer recovers a piece of stolen property vehicle, we make a phone call, and then if we don't get a hold of the registered owner, we tow the car and move on and do our business, and then our records division receives that report and sends a letter. And there's a lot of things I want to change to the police department. One of them is to get into the 21st century and send emails and texts and stuff like that. That's just the policy. That's always been that policy. That needs to change. So we have a little fault, but I think his story is pretty compelling. So, and I think we also need to change our MOU with all the tow truck companies to have a change on the way victims of crime are treated, as opposed to somebody gets their car towed for, committing a crime. It should be a different fee. Most cities, it is a different fee.
Well, since we're in the 18th century, now we have a citizen, that's obligated for several $1,000s, or he's gonna take hits on his credit report. He's already forfeited his property that was already stolen once. I mean, we're just gonna say, well, we're gonna fix it and leave Mr. Decker just hanging?
The chief has shared that he and the captain are working on it.
They're not gonna go steal it from Smitty's, are they? I mean,
You had to say it out loud.
Councilmember Vega.
Chief, do we have an MMOU? How about that? MOU currently with all the towing companies here in town, or do we have some sort of a verbal agreement, or what is it? Is it
We have a
handshake?
written agreement with all the tow companies, and they're in a rotation, so it was that was their rotation. That's why they ended up towing that trailer, because we called them to the scene.
So it's
Yeah.
possible to make a deal with all of them? I don't know how many there are in town. There's probably at least 3, probably, huh?
Yeah,
Towing companies here in town?
Yeah, we have an agreement with all of them, and this brought to light some holes, I think, in our MOU. Smitty's business practices, I can't really do anything about that, but I can do something about the agreement we have with the tow companies. So we're going to wait to see what they have to say. We sent them a letter, and we're waiting for a response.
Okay, so
this
the MOUs
this
are...
isn't over as far as I'm concerned
Okay, gotcha.
until they respond.
Gotcha, so we're planning on moving forward with making some changes? Correct?
Yeah, but that's a separate issue.
Gotcha.
We're waiting to hear what they have to say to our letter. We wrote a letter stating our side of it, and we'll see what they have to say. But yes, in the meantime, we're going to redo the MOU.
Thank you.
Ms. Convine, do you think that we could get an update on this later? Just, very informal note, it doesn't have to be council, but I'd like to just know what happens on this.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, please. State your name, address the council.
I'm William Skylar, I live in Lompoc, Lompoc City Council. There is being distributed in Lompoc, my understanding, a door hanger flyer, and it's from the re-elect Bob Lingle for Mayor Committee. And it asks a series of questions, and I'm kind of concerned about some of the questions and thought I would maybe bring it up tonight. One of the questions is will the noise from the drag strip lower the property values? The response here is realtors think it will. I don't know that realtors are particularly expert witnesses in property valuation due to various projects in the area. There is a clause in the government codes of environmental demunitation, maybe the city attorney can help me, where somebody says that something's damaged their property, and then the burden of proof comes in something, what is a nuisance, and how to mitigate a nuisance. Okay, so I think that's, for the voters, is something maybe to think about what that's actually saying. The next one is the proposed motorsports park already has hundreds of thousands of your tax dollars at risk. Soletti's, Sissy's Restaurant, Ford Motor Company, California Chrysler Dodge Jeep, La Coetesa Center, Lompoc Theater, Lompoc Humidor Corporation, Solvang Brewery have all received money from the city of Lompoc, thousands of dollars. Are you changing your policy now in motorsports that you don't want to put any money in, but yet you gave money to the city council to other ventures? Who will be liable for injuries? We have a waiver program. You have to have insurance in order to participate down there. And the motorsports part will be sanctioned by various bodies that do also offer insurance coverage on liability for those deals. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please.
So am I supposed to say anything?
Just state your name and address the council.
I'm sorry?
State your name and address the council.
Okay. My name is Jamie Lewis.
Say whatever you want to say.
Okay, thank you. I'm here tonight to address an important issue regarding our constitutional rights. I am the County Hub Distributor and Collection Moderator for the statewide volunteer petition drive for Veto Gunmageddon, SARA of 2016, and Raise Your Rights. My concern is that the majority of the citizens are still not aware about this petition drive, or they do not realize the consequences if we cannot collect just over 365 signatures statewide. There are 7 gun referendums, ranging from fees for background checks for purchasing ammunition, banning mail order ammunition, to redefining legally purchased firearms to make them illegal, or banning the magazine, rendering the firearm useless, leading to confiscation with no compensation in return. Firearms will also be confiscated once a person has passed away, not allowing family members to keep them in the family. Lastly, firearm lending will also be illegal. Any hunters out there that let their buddy use one, something to think about. We all know that criminals don't follow the law in the first place. Governor Brown says it will make us safer. How is taking legally obtained firearms from law-abiding citizens going to make us safer? This is a gun grab and nothing more, and only makes legal gun owners into criminals, thus limiting their ability to protect their families. There are 2 petitions along with the gun referendums. One is SARA, California Initiative Referendum and Recall Reform Act. It's very important for the future for any law the governor or legislators try to sign in the future that are deemed unconstitutional. The only petitions you cannot sign online are recalls and referendums. This would require the Secretary of State to keep a live count of signatures on their website after people have electronically affixed their DMV signature to the petition. Thousands of signatures are thrown out due to unregistered voters. Duplicate signatures cost us percentages, PO boxes, illegible writing, et cetera, not to mention people in rural areas that have no place to sign, and the cost of printing and the cost of counting. We need everyone's signature to count. You can buy a house with an electronic signature, but you can't sign a referendum saying that you only want to vote on the matter. The current paper petitions will still be available. The last one is custody trial by jury. Texas is the only state that has this option. If the parents are not happy with the decision of the judge, they have the right to request a jury, plain and simple. Constitutionally, we have the right to vote on all these matters. VetoGunmageddon.org has a petition locator for signing locations all over the state. We are strictly volunteer effort. Here in town, signing locations are Be Safe Lock and Key and The Shack. This Saturday is the last day we can sign these petitions. We need all patriots to stand up for their constitutional rights and help us get the opportunity to vote on these matters. Voters will decide in the end. I think we all deserve this right. Thank you for your time. I will be outside collecting signatures if anybody would like to sign.
Thank you. Next, please. Step forward, state your name.
Good evening. My name is Steve Dietrich. I'm here to talk about the Motorsports Park, but not in favor or against it, but rather about the process. And it seems to me that we're developing a single target focus with a constellation of targets out there. By way of background, I've spent most of the last 40 years working on major projects, evaluating the same type of thing of where are we going with the project and how are we going to get there. And I just would encourage you to take a look. There's 70 plus individual comments from both agencies and individuals, a couple of 100 pages of them. I think it would probably be very helpful if somebody at the city would compile topics and who said it, and is there a credible expert behind it. I am not an expert in the topics covered in that. However, I know from reading those comments that there are people who are experts who take very serious objection to some of the things in the report. If it were a client that I was talking to, I would say, okay, we are where we are. What we need to do is look at the comments, evaluate them, see where this project is going. Where do we think we're going to get out of the environmental process? How do we make a good ending to it? Is it approvable? How does the information we now know impact the schedule, the cost, and the economic survivability of what you have when you get to the end of that? I'd remind you of the commonality between the loss of the Challenger, the loss of the Columbia, and the Deepwater Horizon. The people running the project got focused on launching rather than completing a safe mission. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
My name is Michelle Tognazzini, and I'm on the Lompoc Valley Motorsports Park Project Committee. And I'm here to talk about the money that was spent from the city. It never should have been used, and it was brought to the community that city money was being used for this project. And in some council meetings prior, I had the question, well, I did my homework. And the grant money, which is provided, and I know there's checks coming to reimburse, but an advancement could have been requested so that city money was not used. And that was in the beginning of laying out the foundation of the project. No city money was ever going to be used. It was going to be coming from the nonprofit and from the grant money. So it just presented it wrong to the community, and it did cause an outrage, and people are still talking about that. The city has loaned money to businesses in the area. Why not a nonprofit? There are individuals who will back that money to be sure that the city would get it back, because money seems to be a question for the city and the nonprofit. It's a great project, bad location. I keep hearing that. The city and the community benefit from the project wanting it in that location because of the EIR report. The committee is paying for it. The nonprofit organization is paying for that. Yes, it's using city time, but that's your property. You should be spending time figuring out those aspects of it. So the environmental report is going to benefit the city in the long run, whether the project gets to go there or not go there. You're going to know what you can do with that property. We're paying for that. You're not paying for that. It's a benefit. I think it's a wonderful thing. I've come across more people in favor of the project, even if it is in a bad location, they're in favor. So usually we vote on things when you want something in an area, the majority, it wins the vote. So if we could all help and find a place, if this in fact isn't the best place for it, but find a part. A project, by definition, is a project. You can't kill it. It's just a project, and we're going to keep on going, and I'd like to see it happen, not because I'm pro-motorsport, but I want to see something happen in the community that the majority of the community wants. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Please state your name.
Chris Darling, longtime Lompoc resident. Good evening to the City Council and to the Mayor. I had a comment 2 weeks ago, and if you remember, it was in regards to our fair city being used as a doormat by elites. Yes, wealthy and out-of-touch politicians who scheme to keep our community poor and vacant of opportunity. I counted today the number of empty retail stores on Ocean Avenue. Just Ocean Avenue. The number was sobering and shocking. We have 26 empty stores and restaurants in the heart of our city. We are the proud and generous people of Lompoc, but we will not allow rich, condescending elitists to dictate to us anymore. We will not be insulted nor be talked down to by crafty, two-faced politicians who have the nerve to refer to us as the armpit of the county. Mr. Carvajal's comments have not gone unnoticed. You see, now you're insulting our family. La Familia. And you better not. No, you better not do that. Our Lompoc families are not smelly and foul. We are proud and demand respect. We are sending you a memo. You, the duplicitous, rich manipulators of the South County political machine. And I hope they're going to listen up. We are not your doormat. And by God, we are not the armpit of this county. And I would ask you, Mayor Lingle, to demand an apology from Mr. Carbajal before he's ever allowed to come back to this city.
Okay, that's enough. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one else rise, we're going to close oral communication. Councilman Starbuck.
Yes, one of the first speakers that talked about an item that was on consent, and I know we've already voted on it, but I just had a question for our engineering people. Do those trees have to be removed, or could those sidewalks be placed between the curb and the tree? I mean, I didn't drive down every one of these streets and look here, but I mean, it's pretty obvious that you wouldn't want to remove those trees if there was an alternative way to do the sidewalk, maybe around them, or I don't know.
Wait, you can't speak. You have, we're going to let the engineer speak real quick.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council members. I'm Kevin McCune, Public Works Director. I haven't actually reviewed the particular spot, but I certainly will after the meeting. But in general, yes, we will try to keep mature trees. That's certainly a goal of ours. I'm not sure about the exact situation in this particular case, but we'll take a look at it and see what we can do.
You know, I know, Kevin, a while back, you know, our thing now is sidewalks are all straight, but a lot of sidewalks in town have angles and cuts in them, which at that time was supposed to enhance the walkability or something. But I would really hate to go into some of these older areas of town and cut down the trees. The cost is prohibitive in the first place. So, I mean, anything we could do to resolve this.
Councilmember Mosby.
And just to follow up, could you let us know, and the tree owners, could you let us know if it's not working out for you? We don't want to, after the fact, it's kind of hard to glue those trees back together.
Sure. What I'll do is I'll give my business card to the owner and we'll talk. Okay.
Okay. We're going to move on to appointments, number 4. This is an appointment to fill a single vacancy on the Youth Commission with a term ending of January of 2018. We have one opening and we have one person that has applied. This is a young lady that was here 2 weeks ago who graciously deferred to this meeting. That is Beverly Rawlings, and I'd like the privilege of nominating Beverly Rawlings to the Youth Commission.
I'll second.
Microphone.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Then let's vote. And that passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 5, which is award of contract to purchase 4 automated side load refuse trucks. Let's see, this is Mr. Oh, I guess.
Yes. I got elected to be the spokesman on this one. Mayor, council members, the last meeting, there was a bid request to be awarded for 4 automated side refuse loaders through our fleet division for the solid waste division. The request at that point in time was to defer the decision to this meeting so we could provide some additional information on grant opportunities that might be available. What we found during the last 2 weeks is that there are very few grant availability for governmental entities. There are more that are available to private entities. In addition to that, at the bottom here, there are tax credits that are available to entities to get reductions in their tax payments. City is exempt from income taxes, so that does not benefit us either. So I think directly the request was to contact the Santa Barbara APCD, the Air Pollution Control Board, and Control District, and to find out what they had as available. We talked to one of their grants persons, and they provided us with the HVIP program that's for CNG installs. It provides somewhere between $5,000 and $15,000 per vehicle to offset the cost of installing CNG rather than a conventional clean diesel engine. What the fleet did was to contact one of the vendors who bid on the project to determine generally what the cost differential is between a diesel engine in a trash truck and a CNG engine, and they suggested it was in the $30,000 to $40,000 range. So it doesn't seem like, even if we were eligible for the HVIP program, that it would be beneficial under our current arrangement. So I have a few more slides, but I don't know if that was what the request was. There's some more information about maintenance issues, logistics, the prices and things like that, but I was just wondering if that's enough.
Councilmember Mosby?
Yeah, that satisfies my request. I did contact APCD as well, and they did let me know that 8 or 10 years ago there was a significant amount more of these. So we're kind of on the tail end of that, but that was primarily what I was looking for, and I appreciate you doing that.
Okay. And just for your information, when I first got here, we had been paying off the tail end of some financing that we did to, rather than go out and get a new fleet, we retrofitted many of our vehicles at that point in time to become clean. Those vehicles have slowly transitioned out of the fleet, so now we're just buying clean diesel engines that meet the current requirements. So having said that, if there's any additional questions, I'd recommend that we authorize the recommendations that were proposed at the last meeting, which haven't changed. So,
Councilmember Starbuck?
Mr. Wilkie, I'd like to thank you for including the maintenance cost. I did talk to mechanics in town, and there is special qualifications to work on CNG, and most of the dealerships in town won't even stock a CNG car because of the requirement to train the people to do it. So like you say, thank you for including the maintenance in this.
okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Wilkie? Okay, we'll move on to public comment. Anyone want to speak to us concerning this item? Seeing no one rise, we're going to close public comment, bring it back to the council. Any discussion? Councilmember Humdahl?
Go ahead and move the award to contract to purchase 4 automated side loaders.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, let's vote. That passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, move on to item number 6. This is Enterprise Reimbursement Study Special Purpose Committee recommendations.
Mayor, council members, this was an item that was requested to come back to you after the July, I believe, 17th, July 19th meeting, when the recommendation by the Single Purpose Committee was presented to you as a presentation item. Because it was a presentation item, there wasn't anything that could be acted upon that night. Council gave direction to come back with an action item that could be acted on, and that's what this is tonight. The staff report kind of goes through the various iterations of where we started and where we ended up. It has the draft minutes and the approved minutes from the Single Purpose Committee. The recommendation that we are providing tonight is to consider the Single Purpose Committee recommendation and provide directions to staff to either fulfill that recommendation or some other alternate action.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Wilkie? Okay, seeing none, we're going to open this up for public comment. Anyone from the public wish to speak to us concerning this item? Thank you.
So on May 17th, City Council appointed a single-purpose committee to review the proposed enterprise reimbursement plan and make recommendations. At issue at the time were the methods used by the consultant in assigning costs that would ultimately be passed through the ratepayers. There was concern that the methods used in the study would distort the costs the city bears in support of the utilities and wind up charging the ratepayers unfairly. As the committee became more familiar with the material in the study, the methods used by other cities, and the law such charges are subject to, two things became apparent. The first is that the methods used by the consultant were unusual. For example, instead of using readily available methods for calculating the wear and tear that city vehicles would cause to the street, the consultant used instead a proportional fee basis to estimate costs. Such a method can produce widely varying results based simply on the arguments used. The second thing that the committee concluded is that the charge that the city proposes assessing against the enterprise funds appears to meet the definition in the state constitution of a tax. And I distributed to you the part of Article 13 that applies to this. And as a tax, it would be subject to voter approval. Article 13C is very plain. Under Section 1, definitions, the Constitution says, E, as used in this article, tax means any levy, charge, or exaction of any kind imposed by a local government except the following. It then lists 7 exceptions. The committee could not establish that the proposed charges met any of the exceptions. The article finishes with the warning, the local government bears the burden of proving by a preponderance of the evidence that a levy, charge, or other exaction is not a tax. The decision of the committee was not unanimous, so the committee recommends that the City Council get opinions from 2 attorneys, one in support of the legality of the charge and one a countervailing view. It's important that the city not venture into this area unless it's clear that it's supported by law. If the city imposes the charges and later loses in court after collecting the fees for several years and now is charged with paying them all back, the burden of repaying those utility customers would leave the city in a perilous financial position.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Bob Holloway, City of Lompoc, Chairman of Utility Commission. I urge you to vote no on this because we need the money. We got 11 and a half miles of water pipe, 11 and a half miles of sewer pipe that need to be changed. We just got started so we could get above the black line and start saving some money. Now you want to pull it out. We already given you $10.5 million for the general fund. I just, you know, if somebody up on University Park, you know, we have a problem up there with the sewer line right now. If that sewer line breaks and stuff starts running down the street, and the state gets involved in it, they're going to come in and they're going to tell us, okay, you need to change that 11 and a half miles tomorrow. We'll give you 18 months. And we don't have the money to do it. So what are we going to do? You're going to have to go out and borrow the money. So what you need to do is you need to vote no on this and let the utilities get their money so that they have a pot of money over here that we can go ahead and fix the sewer lines and the water lines that need to be fixed. You know, right now we have a project that's coming up for some water lines in some alleys, and we have 11 and a half miles, and we're gonna do about 2,500 feet, and it's going to cost probably about $700,000 to $800,000 to do that. You know, you know, it costs a lot of money to do this. It costs almost $300 a foot. The pipe costs about $30, but to put everything else in place, it's going to cost about $300 a foot. And you can tell by what happened on the downtown area. You know, we did 1,250 feet, and it cost $700,000. So, you know, I urge you to vote no and let the utilities get their own money, and then we can repair some of the pipes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
Good evening, John Lynn, Utility Commissioner. I want to remind the council that the Utility Commission, the utility commissioners that each of you voted for and appointed to the commission voted unanimously to recommend that you not approve the enterprise reimbursement study as currently written. Now, speaking only for myself, remember that one of the clear legal tests in California is what would a reasonable and prudent person do? The study that's proposed is not what a reasonable and prudent person would do. There's a suggestion that the council needs to have a closed session review of this, and it's always appropriate for the council to receive closed session legal advice about an item to be considered, and this occurred, as you'll all recall, with regard to Walmart and a number of other projects. I think all of you feel as I do that the discussion of the merits of the various portions of this and the methodology need to occur out here in the public. Now, I've spoken to you in the past about the things that I view as issues with the methodology, but I'll recap briefly. I think the ad hoc committee really did an excellent job and gave you a viable solution that would help guide a council decision. So just recapping, if you'll recall, there was a section dealing with reimbursement for police and fire services, the estimate of what those services would cost. Except the proposition makes it quite clear that you can't do that. There was a section that dealt with the rental of office space, and I think all of us agreed that the calculation method was reasonable and that the utilities should pay for the office space. There was a section that dealt with utility vehicles traveling on city streets and reimbursing the city because those vehicles do not pay any gasoline tax or any license fee. And I think it's very easy to determine how much fuel each of those vehicles burns and then pay that to the street department, which they did not receive, and the weight fee off the license. And then finally, there was a discussion about how much it was going to cost to keep sections of street re-repaired for years. And we learned from looking at a number of other cities that that's not the way it's done. There's a fee for the repair at the time that it's done, and it's based on how old the street is and how long it will have to be maintained into the future. Many other cities have done a great job. I think I was particularly impressed with the one from Fullerton that I read. So if you haven't read that one yet, I would encourage you to. I think I read 5 of them, and 4 of them made much better sense than ours. Remember, at the end of the day, it's your responsibility to represent the people of the city of Lompoc and the utility users. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Jane Bear, and I hope that when you all discuss this item, that you will explain it so that I can understand it, because I've really been trying to understand. I know that we don't want to use ratepayers' money to fund the general fund, and I know there's some level that would be reasonable to recoup some costs. But what I don't understand, and so I apologize in advance because I don't have the right language, but my understanding is you're already doing something to take money from the utilities that's like, I think 5% or something, that you're that the utilities is already providing some money. And the purpose of this consultant was to figure out if you could get more money. And I don't know if that's right. So I hope that you'll have a discussion in such a way that people who are trying to understand it but just aren't quite there yet will be able to follow you. Because what I hear, the recommendation of hiring a lawyer to say, yes, this is good, and another lawyer to say, no, this is not good. But it seems to me that this is a matter of fairness, and that you all have to convince the ratepayers that that what you're doing is reasonable. And I understand the importance of getting a lawyer's position on it, but it's a instead of, like the consultant was saying, defensible, I mean, what's fair? And that's the part that I haven't heard too much discussion of amongst the council. And I hear that there's some disagreement, but when Mr. Holloway says vote no, I don't know what he wants you to vote no on. So please help us to understand. This is a lot of money that we're talking about, and it's making us all uneasy. So I hope that I could get a better understanding while I'm here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to close public comment, bring it back to the council. So, just for a quick explanation, when Mr. Holloway urged us to vote no, he was not urging us to vote no on the staff recommendation. He was urging us to vote no on the entire reimbursement study. He was not talking about the staff recommendation of hiring the attorneys. So, it's back to the council for discussion and a motion. Any discussion? Councilmember Starbuck.
I'm just going to say the staff report is for us to make a recommendation on the Enterprise Reimbursement Special Purpose Committee's recommendation. I've read, I've studied it. I think that we need to just put this article in front of the council for discussion now. Not now, but at a later date.
Okay. Any other discussion? If you speak with the mic. Speaking to the mic.
I agree with Dirk.
Any other discussion?
So do I. I think that we've already, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
With the utilities, we have to be really careful on the stress we put on this community. We all live here, and we all feel like the utilities have been increased over time through a series of 5 years at a time with continuous increases, which this reimbursement fund has been based on a methodology of depleting, taking money out of the enterprise fund, which means we have to raise rates or possibly we'd have to raise rates to replenish these funds. So I agree also that we need to put this off and have more discussion.
Okay, so Mr. Starbuck, you are making a motion to bring it back to the council for consideration, and we are not going forward with staff recommendation to get to legal opinions on this.
No, I would say not. I think that we need to bring it back to the council and make a decision on whether we're going to accept or reject the enterprise reimbursement.
Okay, that's a motion.
Oh, sorry.
Do I have a second? Councilmember Mosby?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We have discussion now. Councilmember Mosby.
I just, in reading the multitudes of papers we have in front of us here, one of the suggestions that was out there that was actually provided to us by HF&H, let's see if I can find which one it was here. They actually made a recommendation along with their recommendation on July 14th, 2014, and what I got here is the original service agreement document from them. And they actually said in there, we recommend that the city have its special legal counsel review the report too. So they actually had made a recommendation that we have a legal counsel do a review, and I don't think we've ever even done that. So if we're going forward with this motion here to review this, Are we going to go forward to review this and then come up with something? Are we going to go forward and review and say, hey, let's get a special legal counsel to review this? But maybe along with the motion he says, I mean, it is the recommendation. If we're going to look at their recommendation, let's look at all of their recommendation, and let's have a special legal counsel review their recommendation.
Okay, I do not believe that is Councilmember Starbuck's motion, though.
That's correct. That's why I was discussing.
Okay, good, okay. Anything else? Okay, Councilmember Humdahl.
Well, along with it, I would like our legal counsel to put his 2 bits in, because why can't do it? Do we have to go out and hire 2 others to come in to do it? I like to figure what's coming off from that. I'm concerned about how it winds up in and also the cost of doing business.
Okay, Councilmember Vega.
Under this Santa Barbara County Taxpayers Association for this, their review of this reimbursement study, there were some questions here on this document that, at least 7 questions here, and I was wondering if they were given answers to all their questions also that were asked. I recommend that we probably need to get some answers. It's requesting staff review, and actually there were some questions here that are noted, and I think we requested it in the last time with this committee. So it'd be one of my questions: were all the questions properly answered that Mr. Rodenheim, Mr. Fink, and on that committee, were they all answered correctly? Maybe that's something we need to ask Mr. Rodenheim.
Okay. Would you like to
We can have more information.
Sure.
Okay.
I believe that letter from the Taxpayers Association, those questions were directed at us to ask staff.
I got you.
Okay, okay,
I got
yeah.
you. Yeah, and I'm just asking if that was done.
Teresa, yes.
Mr. Wilkie, do you recall?
I believe through the various ad hoc committee meetings that some of those things were just tabled, but I don't know that if that was, it wasn't something that the Taxpayers Association member asked for during those sessions. It was put on the agenda, but it wasn't anything that was ever asked for, because at the end, when the recommendation to bring the recommendation to council occurred, that was, rather than trying to go through all the weeds, we were trying to give a policy direction for council. So.
Again, I'd still like to ask Mr. Rodenheim if he's still here, if he wouldn't, if the mayor would allow that, to come up and address these questions that I'm asking about. One of the reasons I wanted to ask this is because, you know, we have different methodologies here that have been, we're being asked to vote on, and again, we have a decision of going along with this methodology, or do we want to move forward and go back to the exact cost of service, you know, for actual charges? And if you...
Mr. Rodenheim, could I interrupt real fast? I would just like to make a statement here. July 19th, I made the council request that we review and answer all the questions from the Santa Barbara County taxpayers letter. The Single Purpose Committee was a separate review, so I want to make that clear. You can go back and watch this again. It says, answer all Santa Barbara County Taxpayer Association questions. There was a list of several questions. Segregate those from Single Purpose Committee here, because we've addressed some of the Single Purpose Committee, but we had not addressed any of the Santa Barbara County taxpayers, as the council voted 5-0 on the 19th to do.
And that is correct. The Single Purpose Committee did not address those questions, and to my knowledge, they've not been addressed yet. Is that the question?
Yes, and in your opinion, would there have been some value to having those questions answered?
Yes, absolutely.
To help with our decision?
Yes.
Okay.
You need you're going to need some guidance on how you on how you go through this discussion, and I think those questions are a great place to start.
Okay, thank you. So, Councilman Starbuck, maybe you want to amend your motion to bring it back and include answers to those questions when they bring it back.
I will include that in the motion then.
And I need to...
Great, and I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, so the motion has been made that we bring this discussion back to the council, and part of the discussion is answering all of those questions so we can make make a decision on this, the reimbursement study. Any other discussion? Oh, Councilmember Vega.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Any other discussion? Well, let's vote on that. It's okay, yeah. And just to let you know, I voted no on it because I really wanted to get the legal opinion, but it's good to come back. Okay, so. Okay, we're going to move on to...
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, is there a time frame on that, or is that on the motion? What are we looking? We've been chasing this one for...
Well, yeah, okay, we didn't set a time on it, but you notice that these requests have been coming back quite rapidly lately, so, I mean, probably sooner the better. Okay, yeah. They've been coming back quite rapidly. Okay, we're moving on to item number 7. Yes. Reintroduction of ordinance number 1624, parentheses 16, concerning management of shopping carts. And let's see.
In the city manager's absence, I'm covering this, and I'm going to stand here so my back isn't to Councilmember Vega. You all know what this is about. We brought the ordinance 2 or 3 times, and we made some final changes last time, and the ordinance before you is as you directed the last meeting. I spoke with Mr. Weimiller last week to find out if any comments had been received. He said 1 comment was received. There was no objection to the changes, but because of, not my words, the words of the commenter, because it now is gutted, what's the point?
Okay, thank you. Any discussion from council? Okay, we'll open this up for public comment.
It's Ken Austini, President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, and I have a statement I'd like to read here from the owners of Grocery Outlet, Aaron and Alex Crocker. It says, "Good evening, Mayor, Council, City staff, and public. Alex and I wished we could be there this evening, but we planned a family trip well before our shopping carts became the talk of the town. As I mentioned during the previous meeting, my concern with our carts still being taken, even with an ordinance in place. Requiring us to have a plan doesn't require people not to steal our carts. I would like to thank Councilmember Mosby for his addition to this ordinance during the last meeting. I think this was the missing piece that made it a win for everyone involved. With the added teeth in regards to the theft of our carts, we think it's time to pass this ordinance and move on to more pressing matters here in our town. We want to thank the public at large for being so vocal from both sides of the issue. The best solutions involve multiple points of view. We would also like to thank the council for working through this with us and the other businesses here in town." And now here's their closing, but sending lots of love from the happiest place on earth, besides Lompoc, Aaron, Alex, Charlotte, and baby number 3, Crocker. So, baby number 2, excuse me, not 3. So, and that's their statement.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else, please?
I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, Mike Sewell, Lompoc resident. I just wanted to reiterate that I'm glad that the council did eventually work with the parties involved, with the Crockers especially, because they're the ones I think that are most affected. And if they're okay with the ordinance as is, then I guess I have to side with them a little bit. But I still want to talk about the fact that some government traps are inherent in this thing. The same idea of there's been so much work on this, we can't just let it go away, has been implemented on this particular issue, wasting money. You've cut and dry, you've cut other projects in the middle of it and just cut your losses. I don't know why this one isn't the same. I still think you should vote it down. And I think Mayor Bob, as the leader, only Nixon can go to China. I think you need to be the one to vote this down and show the leadership. Also, as I talked about before, tying it to urban blight, which I do not think is a problem in Lompoc, and this is just, I think, still a non-issue, and does, just lay one more layer of difficulty for business owners to have to deal with, one more layer of the city. And now that it's set a precedent, if you do vote it in, you can change it later and have that $1,000 put back in or whatever you want, because it can be amended. It's an ordinance. It can be amended whenever you want. So I still think you should vote it down. But tying it to urban blight, I do want to address the idea of, I have not heard you publicly condemn Salud Carbajal's comment about an armpit, being an armpit of the county. I would like to give you the opportunity to do that now. If you would like to condone that comment now and say absolutely that you think it was wrong and you would never support any candidate that would say that about our great city.
I think it's inappropriate to do it at this point.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Sure. Okay, anyone else?
Good evening, John Lynn, Lompoc resident. You know, you guys have done a good job of wordsmithing, and we've taken the burden down about 7 steps. As I look up there at the dais, all 5 of you have been in small business. Some of you still are, along with me. And I want you to think for a moment of all the government regulation you have had to deal with. I can see you all thinking, oh my, yes, we had to deal with all of that. And then the question I would ask you to think for this moment is, do we need more regulation on small businesses in Lompoc for this issue? I think the impetus to start on it was well-intentioned, and we've all started down roads that when we got partway down the road or near to the end, we said, you know, maybe that wasn't as important as I thought it would be. Small businesses just don't need any more regulation, and this is a great opportunity not to have any. So I would personally appreciate it if you would all vote no, and I appreciate your time and effort in moderating the document if you feel compelled to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one rise, we're going to close public comment, bring it back to the council. Discussion. Councilman Vega.
I have a couple of questions here, Mayor. Questions hypothetically, if some of these shopping carts are going to be on city property, they're going to be on private property, if they're going to be in someone's yard, how will our code enforcement be involved also in this? We have shopping centers here that allow everything and anything here, including motor homes, mobile homes, everything to sit there. You know, I wasn't sure what authority we're going to have, you know, and how you perceive code enforcement moving forward to make sure that we don't add an additional burden to the grocery stores.
The ordinance does not put any burden on the grocery stores other than submitting a plan for the retrieval of their carts. That is their burden. For instance, Vons has the perimeter, the electronic perimeter. That will be the plan that they submit for the prevention of carts being taken. Grocery Outlet, they have their plan. They go out with their truck and they go out and pick up their carts. There are several of our stores that have hired, even before this, have hired a company to go out and pick up their carts, retrieve them, and then their company is paid. That is, so the only burden on the store is to submit the plan. Well, also they were going to be putting up signs saying that it is illegal. They'll state the state law that it is illegal to remove a shopping cart. They'll put that in the store. They'll place it by the carts themselves. So that's a burden. How our code enforcement and police officers get involved is, according to our most recent one, if someone is in fact stealing a cart, a citation can be written on that cart. Not a burden on the stores, okay? It is the teeth that we've added to, you know, put some onus of responsibility on the person actually taking the cart, so.
I guess my second question also is, this was public noticed, and we did have a meeting for anybody interested or having input. Some of the larger stores, and I'm not sure that we had representation, you know, was a question, you know, that I had. If we've been contacted by all the larger stores in town, such as Foods Co. or anything like that? Was anybody left out of that?
They were all noticed, and of the large stores, Walmart, they did have a member of their.
Yeah, I know. I was just wondering if, I know that we can't force anybody to come over here, but what was our intention of noticing these people also?
That was a council request. Council request was to notice anyone that had a cart, so we noticed.
No, I got you, but again, I don't think all of them participated, and that's just a comment I was making, okay?
Okay, we can't force them to participate, so. Sure, Ken.
Sure.
You're taller than I am.
You know, the word was out there, and some of the businesses, like what Bob mentioned, that Walmart was here, Grocery Outlet was here. I was in contact with Home Depot. Unfortunately, the manager there couldn't be in attendance. He was dealing with some very serious family health issues, but he gave me his feedback. So I was representing some of those businesses here myself when I was at these different hearings and different meetings. So I think there was a good representation throughout the community with this issue.
If I could ask you a comment, Ken, was there any negative as far as what you've seen? I mean, you're painting the positive, but
With the latest proposal?
Yeah, throughout any of it.
I think the businesses are happy with the latest proposal. The first one, yeah, there was lots of issues and concerns. But I think the latest proposal that's now on the table for you guys tonight to look at, I think they're happy with that.
Thank you.
Councilman Starbuck.
Well, from the beginning, I've never supported it. I've always said there's already a law, enforce the law, but we've continued down this path. I can't imagine that the business is happy to have this put on them. The 46 businesses that were notified, yes, now they have to provide signage. They have to provide a plan. If they're late, they're fined. They have to show the security of the carts at night so they can't be taken. The only thing that follows the state law on this is the fact that you cite the thief. So I'm going to vote against this, as I have on every time it's been up here.
Anyone else? Okay, my only comment is this was brought before the council for a purpose. It was not necessarily mine, but thank you for giving me the credit for it, because I think it's an important issue. It is blight in our community. We all work on blight. Still today, you can see shopping carts around our community. So I'm glad it's been brought before us, and I want to thank Councilmember Mosby for adding the extra piece that was missing. And if you don't mind, I'd like to make the motion that we accept staff recommendation on this. And that'll be my motion. I need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? Let's vote. And that passes 3-2. Thank you. Okay. Now we'll move on to item number 8, purchase and replacement of financial management system. This item is, let's see, it's about 20 years late in coming.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members tonight. I'm very pleased to present to you and what we're recommending from finance. I have a slideshow presentation concerning this, but we're thank you. We're recommending that council direct the city manager or designee to execute a contract with Tyler Technologies for the acquisition and implementation of the Munis Financial Management Services System, which we'll call Munis, in an amount not to exceed $1,418,624, and approve additional service that may be identified during the implementation of Munis not to exceed $603,000 over the period of the implementation of Munis, and authorize the management service director to approve additional contract change orders in the amount not to exceed $212,800 over the period of the implementation, and to execute any necessary documents for those changes, and approve technical support and maintenance agreement with Munis for an initial term over 5 years for the initial amount not to exceed $205,165, beginning after the first year implementation, and it will increase 5 years afterwards. So what I'd like to say is how we got here. And what we did is we created a steering committee, and this was made up of all interested divisions and departments. We had initial meetings with everyone that had any interest in seeing what we were looking at. And then we asked each individual department and division to give us things that were critical and things that they would like to see. We put an RFP together, and it was issued in June 10th, 2015. What we did is we delivered it to 6 companies, excuse me. We advertised it in the local paper. We advertised it with CSMFO, which is the financial officer's website. We received 3 proposals, and we selected 2 individual companies to see their demonstrations. So we selected Tyler Muniz and Acela. And Acela used to be, they incorporated Springbrook into them, which is another governmental service. And we asked them to come out and do presentations over 2 to 3 days. And the steering committee, after going through all the demonstrations, determined that Muniz was the best fit for the city. So what we were looking for in the software, we were looking for the financial component for any kind of governmental, which is the general ledger, balance sheet, accounts payable, accounts receivable. We're looking at things that could do budgeting for us and financial statements. In payroll, we were looking, in HR, we were looking things that we use, we use right now, we use NeoGov, and we're trying to incorporate something that would allow our HR department use the software that's currently out there and integrate it. And then for payroll, we were looking at things that would comply to federal and state codes. And eventually, we were hoping to do some employee online things such as timesheets, and people were wanting their W-2s who would be able to print them out without having to contact the departments. And utility billing, we wanted to be able to provide our customers with accurate information that's at their fingertips that they could pay online. Inventory, we use the inventory system with our work order system for electric. And other modules that we were looking at, there's cashiering and permits, licensing, and inspections. And the latest things, of course, is citizen portals where they could go in and apply for permits or look up their utility bills and get information online a lot easier. So in comparing the 2 systems, we were looking at our current system. It has basic functionality. It works. We still do batch processing and manual posting, which takes a lot of time. We have some great staff that work very hard to produce the information we have. But in Muniz, we would have a fully functional and integrated systems between each other. So like when you pay your bill at the front counter, it would automatically show on your utility bill that it's pending. And as soon as it's posted, it would allow the user to know. So if someone came through and say they're looking at a deadline and they wanted to make a payment, and then their spouse or significant other came in and made a payment, we wouldn't be able right now to tell that there are 2 payments coming through. This would give us real-time processing. We could, if it's paid, we could tell how it was paid and the amount, and so we could give the people on that account real-time information, and they would be able to pay for their bill online. They do that now, but you could have a little bit more clearer definition of the how much water you consume, how much electric you use. So Our current system, we do have a lot of it already developed in-house through admins, and we do have internal staff that has to do the programming to get that going for us. The benefit of going with a Munis system is that any kind of federal or state grant mandates that we have to follow, they have to implement it for all their users, and so they have a better they have more resources to them versus the staff that we have now. So currently in our current system, we do have general ledger, payroll, accounts receivable, accounts payable, utility billing, inventory, work order systems. But these are very limited in their reporting functionality. And we're going to look at Munis. We have so many more things that will be available to us. Through grant management, through customer portals, employee portals, citizen self-service. So it has a lot of, it's very robust and a lot of functionality. Currently, our staff does an excellent job of trying to keep up with all the demands we need in the city networks and computer system. We do have a limited staff to work on the admin system, and it's an obsolete system. So this would bring the coding up to date. Our city staff would still maintain all the city networks and computer system except for the Munis software system. So again, citywide, it would meet all of our federal, state, and local reporting requirements. Some of those things that have come over the counter have been the Affordable Care Act, where we have to report, and this takes time, and it took several months to get to the proper account, because actually the Affordable Care Act didn't really know what they wanted when they first started implementing it, so we had several delays. But it would also help with our CalPERS reporting for retirement and any kind of federal and state income tax requirements. Again, it's a streamlined business function through automation. Actually, the neat thing about Munis is that it's going to be able to be a user-friendly interface, because you'll be able to set up what each department wants to see. And eventually, they do have Tyler on mobile phones and communication devices, which they actually recognize the device it's coming through, and it has it displays a user interface designed for touch. Additionally, the processes that Tyler has, they're driven by menus, so you can't go back and redo a posting of something that you've already posted. And there's a little bit of leeway in our system now that you have to be very careful of all the steps you take. So this has a built-in wizard to make it more friendly for users. Now, Tyler Munis was our clear choice of everyone that went there, but we also wanted to let you know of different organizations that are in there currently. We actually went to see the city of Paso Robles and see how they use their system. The city of Santa Barbara currently uses it, Redondo Beach, San Marcos, Lodi, and Hayward, and currently it's also being implemented in Newport Beach. If we're allowed to go through with this, we have a schedule up here. It will start phase 1 in October, and it would go for a year, and they'll be doing the core financials, which is our general ledger, budgeting, CAFRs, accounts receivable, accounts payable. Our second phase, you've noticed, it goes from August 2017 to July, and that overlaps the first one, because part of that implementation is you're going to be running things parallel to make sure things are done correctly. So we'll be able to start on some of the beginning phases of payroll in August while we're still finishing off the core financials in October. And again, you see down the line, we plan to do the utility billing in February. Work orders, February 2018, work orders, we plan to start that in January 2019. And licensing and permits, we'd like to start part of that in July 18 through 2019. There'll be training throughout. There'll be support with the Go Live, and after Go Live, there's libraries and support staff from Tyler that would help us out. Now, it is a large investment. It's a large investment in financially and staff time. But we have significant challenges with our existing system. It is 30 years old, and I was gonna, I'm sorry, I don't know what I did with, I brought a 5 1/4 floppy to show you what it, what we were working, with in 1980, and it's in his. So yes, it has been quite a while. I don't think we even have computers right now that actually support a 5 1/4 floppy, or a 3 1/2 disk, and most of it now is, flash drives and such. We are talking about a significant time commitment during the conversion, but the ease of the use would allow staff to use things for projects that are just beyond numbers. A lot of times we're just checking numbers to make sure they're right, that we have to go through taking it from the admin system and putting it into Excel and creating a table, and it does take time, and you can do it, but it takes time. We do have good staff that work very hard to get this information to us. What we wanted to also let you know that we anticipate the cost. We want to do it to be financed through a combination of payment for services, and where necessary to preserve cash flow, we can defer the services using loans from the internal service fund, the insurance fund. Capital leasing is unavailable for the operational cost to implement the system, but we could, if you're chosen to do a reimbursement period over 5 years, at a rate we would anticipate of 0.96%. We could do leasing or financing through putting up collateral of the city hall or police station to get the funds going, but one of the easiest, and that doesn't have to be decided right now, but those are things that we're thinking about through this process. On this next page, you'll see the funds that use the the general accounting system, and what we plan to do is spread them out over 3 years. The way we calculate this was based on our cost allocation system, and what we looked at is the time that the staffing put in. We looked at the warrants, the accounts payable activity. We looked at expense transactions, HR recruitment, operating budgets, and utility billing to determine how we were going to charge each fund. And on page 4 of the staff report, you could see a further breakdown by module and by activity. Again, after these costs are spent, we will be asking to implement an annual fee of $205,165 and increasing 5% per year. The nice thing about that is that the system is a green system, which means that they will update our system every year at the minimum, and then usually they do it quarterly or every half a year to put up things like tax tables and things that are updated through the federal government for payroll, those types of things. So just want to say that the financial management system, it's one of the most important computer systems at the city, and it plays a significant role in many of the key financial and administrative functions of the city. The current system that we have right now is 30 years old, 26 to 30 years. We do make improvements. We do have programmers that update code, but it's based on an obsolete system, obsolete language, and we'd like to bring it current. We do have it in our budget. We had assigned $2.6 million. Currently, we're asking for the $2.2 million. And be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Humdahl.
I really don't have questions. I want to congratulate you on what you showed us tonight. Yeah, I brought part of this 6 years ago back to the city to try and get things moved along this way. But what you have up here is one of the best things I've seen in a long time, is getting everything on the same page. With the new type of equipment we have now and what we can do and what you do with putting programs together, you're doing, to me, is the speed you should be going. And you got 3 years, you're not going to cram it down there, but you got good staff who wants to go ahead. And I think what Lompoc will come out of this is going to be a very excellent program.
Councilmember Mosby.
I guess one of the simple questions is, the utility enterprises are going to be paying a little bit into this, and it's probably going to help them with efficiencies at the counter over here and everything else, right?
Yes.
So, as everybody's concerned with rate increases, we're not going to see a rate increase because of the minimum amount here, right? It's actually a benefit.
This is a benefit, and it will also provide good information on our billing. They will actually, we do have a few glitches in like our solar accounts every once in a while.
So those little 3x5 cards eventually,
yes,
they'll get rid of that card catalog that they have there, and eventually we'll be into the 21st century somehow.
Yes,
right.
and we'll be able to scan in important documents and hook them to the account, so we don't have to go through those file cards.
I see staff a lot of times at that front counter, they're going back and forth with, it's quite a system.
Yes.
Yeah, this will be nice.
Thank you.
Ms. Wall, the data entry, are we going to manual enter data? Is there a file transfer? How's that going to be accomplished?
What will Jeff Collins and his staff will be able to pull down that information. We'll be able to pull down 3 years unless we want more, but that would cost more. We will still have our managed system to look up the history of things in the key file. But yeah, they don't have problems with us importing it, and it'll be a drawdown. So depending on how the utility billing is set up, they will be able to draw the information down and to populate the fields. So,
okay. And then all that data that we draw down, that'll all be validated?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And the validation, you'll be doing parallel studies, so you'll be able to validate it with the parallel studies. Okay.
Yes.
So, and this is not, as everyone says, it's long overdue. Just some questions. So the parallel studies, the data transfer and everything, it's going to take time, as you indicated, staff time. Do we plan on hiring any temporary staff to help during this time?
Yes, we can go out and hire staff depending on what we need at which module we need to work at. We also asked to have some money in here, put in here, so we can have someone, a project manager, overview what we're doing to make sure we're doing it on a timely basis. So if the council approves what we have tonight, part of that money that we have set aside would also be included for a project manager to keep us on task.
Okay. And then for support, are we using the company for support? For annual maintenance and
Yes.
downtime and
Yes.
recovery?
yes, they will, we'll still do internal backups. It will be hosted on our system. It won't be at a cloud at a different location because the cities want to have security. So we don't want to have any kind of breach in having people get into our system. So we will still have it at our site, but we will also have the hardware, the software for the system will be at Tyler. They'll have remote access if they need to.
So it'll be remote. So they will have real time at Tyler. So if we go down at 9 o'clock this evening, our backup from yesterday is only good as far as 24 hours ago. But Tyler will have real time backup for us.
Jeff will still maintain our backup.
But that's 24 hours old.
Whatever we need to do, we'll still be able to maintain it the same way we do now. The software itself would be from Tyler, would be overviewed by them.
I think Mr. Wilkie has a comment.
I'm sorry.
Just like to add to that, one of the functionalities that information services has put into our system is several layers of redundancy. So we don't have just one computer server that would crash and we wouldn't have that data. We actually have two mirrored systems. So if one goes down, the other one stays up. We also have mirrored storage. So if one storage unit goes down, it has its own backup, and they can switch those in and out live while the system's still up. And that applies to every system that we have at the city, not just for this particular installation. So.
Okay. Councilmember Vega.
Linda, just for clarification for the public and people in the audience, is hardware included with this system? Are there any additional costs outside of this management system? As far as your computer upgrades for your servers and all that, is that already in place here in the city?
No, there are some things that we're going to have to update. We're going to have 4 or 5 servers that are virtual servers. There'll be one, so we'll have to purchase that. But that's part of the cost in this system.
It's part of the cost. Okay, I see we have 2.2 budgeted, but no, 2.6 budgeted, but you're only asking for 2.2. So
at this time, yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So that's all going to be included, right?
Yes, and that includes a contingency amount too. That just to make sure that we have that 2.2 includes a contingency amount. So there is an opportunity to save some money there.
The reason I ask is I see some of the workstations here in the city. Are those going to remain the same? I see some of the older screens and things like that, so does that still work or what?
We'll probably always keep that green screen that Marie has.
I see the XP or whatever it is on there, and I go, I kind of chuckle when I first got over there, so.
But yeah, we're replacing some of the PCs over a period of time.
Yeah, we have a complete PC replacement program that was implemented as part of the 15-17 budget, which is entirely separate from this. That's funded by all the divisions to maintain a replacement schedule for desktop and laptop PCs that are used, and all those would be compatible with the system. So somebody who wants to go and look in their budget would be able to. So.
One more question here for you, Brad, or Melinda right here. Just for a simplification here, we have it all budgeted, but again, you brought up the fact that we have the ability to use our equity and get loans or use lease agreements, and how does that work exactly? If we have it budgeted and you guys have to go in, you have different methods of getting the money without putting the city at risk on the general fund. Is that what's happening there?
Well, the appropriations are budgeted out of the internal service fund that is communications. So that is already budgeted and the appropriations are there. To maintain our cash flow for the 3 or 4 years that this program is going through, because it will be over that much time, we provided a little bit of flexibility to be able to spread the cost over the first 5 years of the project rather than over the implementation schedule when we're actually paying the bills. And that's really what the financing is for. And one of the things we talked about last week is as part of the 15-17 cycle, we have some financings that we have to bring to you for approval. One of the things we may do is to include in an RFP what a company would do with the external financing of this project, and then compare that to what we have available internally. There are pros and cons to each way. One thing to keep in mind that because this is a software system and it's mostly implementation costs, there's not really a asset out there that somebody can put a claim on. So that's why Melinda mentioned that if we did some sort of external financing, it would probably need a collateral of a building that doesn't currently have any debt attached to it. And we have a lot of facilities that are like that. So,
well, the reason for my question is due to Councilman Mosby's comment that utilities wouldn't be increased because of this this move here.
Well, and that's true, but most of these costs are going to be something we have to recognize in the 17-19 budget. And also in the 17-19 budget is when we start looking at the 5-year implementations of the next rate changes for utilities. For electric, this is $200,000 over 4 years on a budget that's approximately $20 million of revenues. So it's a reasonable amount for the utilities, I believe. So.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone else from the council? Okay, we'll open this up for public comment. Anyone wish to say anything?
Hello, Charles Summer. As a business owner, one of the things that concerns anyone is theft and time theft. And I know that Ms. Wall mentioned that they're going to do payroll. Now, is there going to be an implementation of like a digital clocking in, clocking out? I understand a lot of the sections in the city, it's done sort of by hand. Oh, I showed up at 9:05, let me put 9 o'clock. And eliminating some of the old timesheets, and I think that could also help lower costs. I know that sometimes when I go visit Joanne Plummer at the pool, she's receiving nice large paper time cards from the lifeguards, and it would be nice if there was some sort of digital system where the lifeguard shows up, they clock in digitally, they clock out digitally. It streamlines the payroll process and eliminates theft of time. So that's something that through the presentation I thought of, because I know that at my employer, I make sure that no one gets to clock in really early. It's a 5-minute time limit, and then they leave early, they clock out, and they're gone, and there's no, oh, I left at 8:45, let me write down 9. So just curious, because that would be nice. I think the city can save some money that way.
Good, thank you. Anyone else? Tyler, since we're naming it after you, you're not going to say anything? Just kidding.
Janelle Osborne, resident of Lompoc. As a member of the Economic Development Committee, this is one of the things we identified early on that our city desperately needed to do to become more business friendly, was to be able to conduct business efficiently online to businesses and residents. So while it's an investment, it's 30 years overdue. And I'm happy to see that it has been proposed, that staff has thoroughly vetted that they're interested and invested in making sure this goes smoothly. And I look forward to the vote of yes tonight to move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one rise, we're going to close public comment, bring it back to the council. Discussion, your wishes?
I don't know if there's any more discussion, but I believe I'd like to move the recommendations 1 through 4. It's definitely needed. Like I said, it's 30 years behind time, but we're at least not going to put it off for another 30 years and get started as soon as possible.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I have a discussion.
Sure, go ahead.
During the budget hearing, this was brought up. It was considered part of our infrastructure to do this. I mean, there should be no disgruntlement that, yes, we need this system. I'm glad that we found a system. It's taken many, many months. I'm glad that we found something that's going to work for everybody. Yes, I'm going to vote for it. Yes, I want to go with staff's recommendation. I'd like to add a number 5. Anytime that we've gotten into a big project like this, or not any time, but I found it to be very behooving of us to receive an update. The community center, we got a monthly update. Where are we at? What are we doing? What are we spending? The pool, we did it with the light on our street with Caltrans. I would also like to include a monthly update with this. This is a couple $1 million project. I think we should keep it on the forefront. So staff recommendations 1 through 4 and provide 5 that we receive a monthly update on our progress with this or troubles.
Councilmember Mosby, you made the Councilmember Humdahl, you made the motion. Would you like to add that?
Yes, I'd like to add that. Good idea.
And I'll go ahead and second that.
Okay, Councilmember Mosby. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded with the addition of, was it monthly updates?
Item number 5.
Monthly updates, okay. Any discussion? Let's vote. That passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 9. Reduction of fee request from the Lompoc Hospital District Foundation. Ms. Gallivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Teresa Gallivan, Assistant City Manager. We received a request from the Hospital Foundation for a reduction in fees for an event they have coming up. The event is a 5K Colorthon run on September 25th at River Park. Couple matters of what the rental fee is, and also there's also discussion about the use of the restrooms are 2 important points about their request. The cost for renting the park, and I believe we have an aerial map that we can share with you, is we set some fees. We did a fee study quite some time ago with council, about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, that established fees for rentals, for permit inspections, fire permits, special event permits, and all of those are the fees that we have been implementing when we have special events at any of our venues. So those same fees were applied to this event, and as you can see, the red outlining the parking lots, that's indicating the areas that they'll be using. Thank you. So right here, here, I'm sorry, here. And then this parking lot, I think that is food. There's some vendors and things there, if I'm seeing that accurately. So what we did was we had a charge for the use of 3 areas of the park. Each section rents for $275, so that comes to $825 for the park rental. And the reason that we went with that fee is because we cannot rent the other areas given the amount of space that they'll be using. Then there is a special event permit for fire, where they review their plan and they do an inspection of the special event. And again, that was a fee set by our fee study and policy, and that is $185. And all events are assessed that would qualify for this are assessed these fees. So it comes to $1,010 is their total charge. I think that's it for now on that, Ariel. Also, we have a policy that if an event is a large event, we close our restrooms if they're, because there's infrastructure challenges, sometimes they can overflow, they can't handle large event capacity. So we close the restrooms and we require the special event to rent portalets in order to handle the attendance that the event is going to have. So with that policy in mind, the restrooms would be closed. This is a condition that we share with any special event renters. It was a condition we shared with them last year and we had on their rental last year. It's a condition that we brought up with them when we first met with them. However, the group feels that it is unrealistic to close the restrooms and it's an additional cost to them to rent the portalets. But again, we've been doing that for large events because we do typically have some challenges with large events and the volume of use causing backup issues. So that's why we've gone that route. Last night, this item was heard at the Parks and Recreation Commission, and there was extensive discussion about their request and both of these items, and the commission did make a recommendation for council to consider. The commission recommended that council reduce their fees by $600 to offset costs that they'll be incurring. So that is something we wanted to share with you. Council can consider and advise on any aspect of this, but I did want to share with you how we established those fees, what sections we're charging for, and also in the future would recommend that, we went through our budget process this last year and we asked to consider all of the city-sponsored events and bring them forward in the budget so that you could see over the course of the budget cycle how much the city supports in special events. And in the future, we'd like to be sure to reach out to any annual event organizers, including Colorthon, and let them know that please, if you would like city support of your event, please let us know now so we can put it into the budget cycle in the future instead of doing the one-offs here and there. So we're here for any questions you may have, and I also know the Hospital Foundation is here as well, both Alice and Tyler.
The foundation wish to speak?
Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, staff, I'm Alice Milligan, native of Lompoc.
Hi, Council. I'm Tyler Perry, Allen Hancock student and chair of the Lompoc Hospital Foundation, Colorthon.
The Lompoc Hospital Foundation is conducting a capital campaign in the amount of $2 million to refurbish the comprehensive care center, i.e. the convalescent center. The CCC serves the community of Lompoc. It serves the seniors, and it also serves the people in rehab. Now, the people in rehab go to a nice facility, the Lompoc Valley Community Center. Then after they have to go to rehab, they go to the CCC. Not so nice. It's been there 50 years, and we're bound and determined to refurbish the convalescent center. I'm not supposed to call it a convalescent center. It's the comprehensive center. So towards this end, we're holding a color-thon. We held one last year, and this year it's again going to be at the River Park on September 25 at 10 a.m. I hope all of you are going to be there. The mayor is going to be there. How about the rest of you? Come on, Dirk, Jim, Mr. Bigot.
Does this involve running?
No,
Oh,
no,
good.
you can walk at your own pace. And actually the color, for those of you who have never been in a color-thon, it's cornstarch. We just spray you with colored cornstarch. It is more fun than ever. It's so much fun. Little 5-year-olds do it. 85-year-olds do it. It's great. Don't just look at me. You're going to do it. I can tell, Jim. So anyway, I hope all of you in the listening audience will participate. It's going to be great fun. The weather's going to be nice, and we're going to have a great day.
As part of this event, we are being required not only to rent the Kiwanis, which is the large event center next to the pond where we'll have registration and most of our vendors. We are also renting 2 of the other event centers, the American Legion and the Lutheran at River Park, for a total cost of $875 plus a $185 fire inspection fee. This comes to be $1,010. Even though the park rental fees include the cost of the restrooms, we cannot use them. As a result, the foundation has to go through a separate party and rent 5 additional portable restrooms and a washing station, which will cost the foundation up to $567.
So even though the restrooms are there, we can't use them. We paid for them, but we can't use them. So we request that the park fees of $1,010 be reduced to compensate the foundation for the additional cost of, it's not $600, only $567 for the portable toilets, which we are required to expend because the park restrooms are not available to us. And a meeting of the Recreation Commission held last night, as Teresa Gallivan indicated, the commission recommended that, well, I guess they can't, well, I guess you can. Yeah, they recommended that they supported our request, even though they can't take action, they can recommend. So they recommended that they supported our request, right. So we're available to answer any questions. We hope that you will consider our request. Restrooms are there. We can't use them. They're too fragile.
So Ms. Milligan, are you asking for the $567 that you are paying for the restrooms, or are you asking for the park's recommendation of $600?
Well, we mentioned last night we thought it was $600. Today I found out we get a 10% reduction to nonprofits. So I took that off of the $600.
Okay,
So
you're
it's now
asking-
$567.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Mosby.
I got a question for Ms. Gallivan. Is there a security deposit?
We are not serving liquor. There is a $500 security deposit.
Okay, and I guess one of the questions would be if it seems like a simple wash here would be allow them to use the restrooms that were there, but knowing that you have a security deposit, and if they're start off clean, they end up clean, and if there's an issue, then who would be responsible for taking care of the issue? If something, I think that's one of the, when we look at it, that's the as they say, fragile of the restrooms is more of a concern. If something happens, they can get very expensive. If somebody flushes something, like we had something at City Hall not too long ago, I'm sure that wasn't all that much fun. So, and I from what I understand, when the parks does this, it's also kind of a layer of protectionism, because nobody wants to be, if they're renting a park, be a bathroom attendant. So maybe if there's an acceptance and understanding that, yeah, we could open these bathrooms up, but understand there's a degree of responsibility, and the bathroom is going to have to be cleaned before it gets at the end of the day. And I don't know if it's more of a burden to do that or to keep the portables. So.
Right there, the deposit could be used if there was a problem to do any repair work. Also, if it was not properly cleaned and returned in the same condition as it was accepted, then that could be used for cleanup, like any damage deposit at a facility. You're right, we have not done it that way in the past because it still does cause an interruption to an event, which is never good for a special event. So it has been the policy to handle it another way. However, if council would like to make that exception, then it would reduce for this event, the number of portalets that would be required by the amount of stalls available.
And are you?
Which would reduce then the costs, and there would be no offset to, or nominal offset to fees.
As I understand, and listening to the parks maintenance man, he indicated last night that with that many people, there's a backup. Not a very pleasant thing, but that's what he said, that there is a backup in terms of the
So maybe you wouldn't want that risk and responsibility then of maybe that this using, but my thought process was maybe not a very good alternative. Then maybe you want to keep them locked just for your protection.
We have Mr. Ishawada would like to weigh in on this.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilman, citizens. Dirk Ishawada, Fleet Facilities and Park Maintenance Manager. The reason why we have to close the restrooms is one, of its age, and two, it can't handle the capacity of the potential 300 to 400 people within a very small amount of time. if we don't have porta potties as a backup, if the restrooms fail, then you're going to have a lot of people that are going to have no place to go. And that's kind of the situation where we're in right now. It's not that we would like to not have them open, but there definitely needs to be a secondary option. And again, the last time we had it, the Colorthon last year, one of the restrooms did fail, and it cost about $300 for us to have a plumber come out on a Sunday to alleviate the problem.
Okay, Councilman Starbuck.
I was just going to say, it's always good to have our bathrooms as a backup. There's a statement in the staff report, the foundation was required to supply portable toilets at last year's Colorthon as well. However, the portable toilets did not arrive and the park's restrooms were used. So obviously, what are we, on a leach system or something out there?
Correct.
Councilman Vega.
So for daily use, they are open,
Yes.
but they're not allowed to use these as part of their permit to conduct their event. Is that correct?
That is correct. It cannot handle the influx of all the additional people. The general public, Monday through Friday, an occasional party, a small event on a weekend, yes. But a full-blown event like this with this many people, it's almost guaranteed it's going to fail.
I got you. I was just wondering if there was a way to offset the cost, by also requiring, the porta potties, but not as many. I think that's one of the questions that was presented to us.
Are both of them on a leach system?
2 of the 3.
2 of the 3 are?
Correct.
So maybe offset with one of them? Yeah, do you have problems with that other one that you don't have on a leach system?
No, we don't have a problem with that.
Which one?
It's the one furthest towards the RV.
Any other questions from the council? Okay, before we proceed, I need to ask the city attorney a question. I should have asked it earlier. I sit on the Hospital Foundation board. I receive no financial remuneration. So should I recuse myself on this?
As a board member, yes, you should.
Okay, so I should have stepped down earlier, but Vice Mayor, you take over for this point on.
Okay, what's our next step for public comments? If we could, thank you so much. I appreciate your comments, and then public comment, if you wouldn't mind.
Jane Bear, good evening, gentlemen. I'm glad that Mayor Lingle recused himself, and I do think it's important, for the sake of transparency, to note that Alice Milligan is Mayor Lingle's campaign chair. So I think that you probably all know that, but probably everybody else should know before you all vote. And I think it's a great cause, and I think it's wonderful if you decide to waive the fee, but then you need to waive it for all nonprofits. This is a fee that's known. Other nonprofits have paid it. How far back are you going to go and reimburse them for paying a fee that this particular nonprofit doesn't have to pay? So it's just a matter of fairness, and I hope that you will consider that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, Charles Summer. I am a Parks and Recreation Commissioner. I actually made the motion last night to push for the offset of costs for them. What Jane Bear might not know is that in the past, unbeknownst to us, it was illegal. We used to waive a lot of fees for nonprofits that came in, offsetting fees, rental fees, everything else. It became aware to us last year, and now we can no longer do that. And one of the things that was nice about that is when we do have nonprofit groups that come in are doing great things, like the Recovery Day in the Park that's going to happen on Saturday, we as a commission can make these recommendations to staff. One of the issues we've had of late is that we didn't get this on our agenda until last week. That meeting was postponed due to a lack of quorum. We had it last night. We were able to make the recommendation to you guys tonight because they happen to already be on the agenda. I think that staff should look towards getting things to us in a timely fashion so that this can happen more often. I think it's been something that the city has, obviously there are financial responsibilities that council has, but when it comes to, you know, a minor fee, $500 is fairly minor. For them to offset, it's good for them. And I recommend that you help offset this fee of the newly $567, whichever it comes out to. Last night we were, was at $600, so that's the recommendation we had. So I would like to reiterate that we did make that recommendation and that you could do that for them. Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Okay, I'm going to close public comment. Councilman Mosby? I have to open back up.
Ms. Gallivan, could you answer a question? The $185 fire inspection fee is, how is that being used? What is that doing?
That covers the cost of reviewing the plans for the event and doing the inspection. So,
And what are they inspecting?
that items are out, that the event is laid out according to the plan, that we've, made sure that everything is done according to the approved plans in a safe manner.
And is this plan about the same plan as they had last year? Or did they modify their plan from last year?
I'm going to defer to our recreation manager for that one. Thank you.
Good evening. One part of the fire plan is when they do have the food products out there, they go and inspect the food products, and they will have two vendors out there, Wild West Pizza and Yogurt, the Creations. So that is part of the fire inspection also on site that day.
So is their plan pretty similar to last year's?
Pretty similar, and they're hoping for a bigger crowd, so it would just be on a bigger type of scale. Last year, I believe that they were about 350 to 450, yeah, 350.
But the fire's not inspecting how many people are there, they're just looking at
safety routes and making sure that there's no cars that are blocking any of the entrance.
Are they there all day? Fires all day?
Usually they come at the beginning of the event, and just to make sure that they're inspecting at the very beginning instead of coming when it's pretty.
I guess what I'm looking at is this fee, because other nonprofits have made a comment to me about the $185 fee. They said, we did the same thing we did last year.
And these fees did, as of 2016, those are the most up-to-date fees that were passed during the fee resolution, so that they did go up a little bit.
And I think one of the things maybe we should have, what was it before?
Do you remember? It was 112, but there's a list of what type of events, if it's a trade show or if it's a carnival, there's different fees that fire does charge.
Maybe we needed to add another one there if it's a repeat customer doing the same thing they did the previous year, because it seems like, maybe there could have been a level of leniency there, but again, that's something a little different. I guess my question would be for Dirk then on the restroom. If you were to leave the one restroom open that works, would there be a reduction, or could there be a reduction of how many porta potties they could bring?
There could be a reduction, yes. The actual quantity, I would have to look at the table that was supplied by fire and planning.
They're saying 1 per 100. How many holes are in that one?
I had correspondence with the fire chief, and I do believe the number of restrooms that we opened would be what we would offset the requirements. The requirements in the staff report as of last night were 5.
And how many are in that? I mean, is that just one door, or is there?
Well, there's a male and a female side.
So that could be a 2 offset then, potentially?
Correct.
We're back to council. Is any other discussion here? Any questions for Mrs. Milligan? Dirk? Councilman Stolberg.
Just a comment, you know, it's going to be hard pressed to get me out there. You want me to run, you're going to change my colors, and there's no liquor. I mean, oh gosh, where's the incentive here? So, the second thing, you wine, beer, booze, nothing. I mean, geez. Second thing, I'm going to move with the commission recommendation. I'm glad that we're able to do this. This is the first. It's a revamp of how we've done it. So I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we waive $600 toward the hospital foundation for the rental.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have, Councilman Mosby, you have a comment?
Yeah, can I add something on your motion that they allowed to reduce by 2 and leave the other open, if that's something you guys would wanted to do?
If we can use it, it's fine, yes. Yes, if the restroom's available, we can reduce it by two porta potties.
Right, I think that would be the idea, is whatever the required number of facilities would be available would be reduced by what is open. I'd also ask the council to consider allowing us to charge out of the deposit for any cleaning or repairs that would be needed should the bathroom back up.
Don't you already have a $500 deposit?
That's what I'm saying, is as long as the applicant
We have already
understands-
made a $500 deposit.
As long as the applicant understands that that would be taken out of the deposit, that's, yeah.
And again, in discussion of your motion, it would require a little bit less reduction of the expense because you're having to.
Understand, but in the meantime, then we can sit here and berate this all day, or we could just say, you know what, we're going to lock the bathrooms. You're going to go with your plan as it was approved with the Parks Commission, or else we're going to reinvent the wheel and start over. To me, the simplest route would be to go with what you'd requested.
Yes, yes,
Right.
that's fine.
Just trying to shave some more money off.
Okay, we're going with the original motion then, correct? And Councilman Holmdel, you have the second, right? Yeah. Already made that? Okay, so we have a motion, if we could, for fee reduction for this event of $600, is what I believe.
Actually, it's $567.
$567. You will provide your own porta potties
the
without the
motion-
use of the restroom.
We will order five restrooms for porta potties.
Yeah, the motion was for 600 as the Parks and Rec Commission.
Okay.
I wanted to follow their
600,
recommendation.
whatever.
Okay, so we have a motion for a fee reduction of $600, okay? And then the hospital foundation would provide their own porta potties.
Yes.
And we're good. You have your deposit in. If there's any, well, the deposit's for another reason, correct?
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, got you. So.
And we'll see you all there on Sunday.
I got you, so looks like we need to vote. If we could, we have a motion and a second. Let's vote.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Vega. Okay, we will now move on to written communications.
Nothing.
Okay. Oral communication, this is your last opportunity to speak to the council for up to 2 minutes.
Hello, Charles Summer. Last night I tried at Parks and Recreation Commission make a motion that I was unable to make, and I'd like to push council to request that Parks and Recreation Commission come back to City Council with a review of the positive and negatives of the Parks Division and the Recreation Division. I think there's certain things that City Council does not see that we see. One of them being the issues with Alice Milligan and other groups of her sorts. I think there's a timeliness issue, among other things, and I would like encourage council to request that commission come back with you with some feedback about the Parks and Recreation Division. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening, Jane Bear. I have two comments. The first is that I very much appreciate that the council requests are being put on the agenda online. So I studied the council requests, and I didn't see the council request that you referred to, Councilmember Starbuck, that you made on July 19th. And I just think that you are all having a problem getting your requests back in a timely manner. So I would reiterate my message to you that if you do make a council request, that you attach a time frame to it, and then that there's some sort of check to make sure that if you make a council request that it actually gets put on the list, because in this case apparently it didn't. And the other thing that I would just like to mention, that I mentioned on December 1st last year, is that there is an outdated version of the Brown Act on the city website. And I think that I have to tell you that 9 months later, it is a sign of how much you care about the Brown Act. I don't think it's hard to put the updated version of the Brown Act on the website. And I would say you should add the open and public document that was put out by the California League of Cities, which we belong to. And I find it disrespectful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Tony Ostini, local resident and realtor. I just would like to make a comment on something that Will Smith brought up on some advertisement and campaign material that Mayor Lingle is putting out, using the term realtor, and that has been very vague and very general, and a statement like that needs to come from our board of realtors. I don't know if that's misleading to the public when you use that, if a few agents noting as realtors made their feelings present, but when you use a general statement like that, I feel misleading to the public, and you should go to the local board of realtors association for their endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one rise, we're going to close oral communication. Council requests, comments, and meeting reports. Start with Councilmember Mosby.
I've got a couple that I'd like to make council requests. One is, from what I understand, there's a retention study that's out there on their public safety. As you know, we're having some difficulties keeping them there, but we've paid for one to be done, I believe, and I'd like to get a presentation by staff on the retention study that's out there. Need two other people to go along with that if they want to hear about public safety.
Is there a study available?
I'm not aware. Is that for PD or fire?
Fire.
We can look into it if there is. Does that ring a bell with you?
No, I mean, I would certainly be interested in hearing it if there is one.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a city
I think I
one.
remember vaguely hearing somewhere that one of the somebody in the department had done it. I think the chief had mentioned it here one evening, so it's not an official retention study, but it was done by somebody in fire. And I think the same was said with police, so I would back that request if the chiefs could produce it.
I mean, again, that's what I've been told, and it's something we're having difficulties with, and I think it'd be great for us to understand and the public understand what's going right or wrong.
We have a first and a second. Do we have a third?
Yeah, I'll give it a third.
Okay.
Okay, got other things?
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
The other is the fire station number 1. We had a discussion, just a small little bit on the earthquake retrofit that was out there. And I think it's time for us to maybe get a presentation of what we're looking for. I believe the number that they were talking about was somewhere between $3 and $3.5 million. And it's significant, and it's something that needs to be done. And maybe we should start talking about this and see where we are. two others to go along with that so we can discuss the fire station. Number one's earthquake retrofit study.
I will absolutely back that also. I mean, I was told at one time that it was going to be done through a grant, and we were going to apply for grants. They just kind of went away at that point.
I'll agree.
Okay.
And one last one, and that was my park commissioner came up and asked that we have a discussion, and I guess the same type of meeting we had earlier in the year or later, I think it was maybe last year, with our parks commissioners and such here, maybe a, mayor says no. But another one of our meetings that we have in a discussion, there's been a little bit of, I don't know what you want to say that's been going on at the meetings, but a lot of questions have put out there, and we had one with all the other committees and commissions throughout the year, but maybe another, what would you call it? Joint meeting with it is one of our items that's on our council priorities list is parks, and I'd like to be able to have a joint meeting with the council and the park commissioners.
Could I ask the question, is this a consensus amongst the commission, or is this just yourself?
I can come up with the microphone now.
I feel that there is a majority of consensus on that. I can't speak for all five, but by the feelings I get at the meetings, most of us feel the same way.
I won't go on feeling. If I could hear from my commissioner and, independently that we do it, I would certainly back this at one point.
It was recommended to each commissioner last night that they go to the council member that appointed them to push for that. And I went to mine, and I'm coming as an individual to all of you. So you probably have to talk to them.
I'll wait to hear.
Okay.
Now, did you say that last night you told them all to get a hold of their appointees?
It was recommended from staff that after I made a motion that we get together and come to city council with it. I was essentially denied that request because we can't dictate what we do, what we bring to you. You dictate what we bring to you. So you have to ask for it. We can't tell you. And so staff recommended to us that we reach out to each of you individually. Like I said, I reached out to Councilmember Mosby.
Okay, so Councilmember Mosby has a request. He still needs a second and a third.
I'll give him a second. Got to give respect to our commissioners.
Go ahead, third on it.
Okay. Councilmember Mosby.
That's it, thank you.
Okay, and if you can sort of direct some time limit on these and make sure that it's followed up on.
Do you want me to direct a time limit?
Well, you ask for time.
I'd like to see it come back within, 4 to 6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks, okay. And then we'll follow up to make sure it's on there. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Starbuck. Yes.
Was there any agenda item discussion point that we want to, I heard positives and negatives mentioned.
With the park commission, I think just another one of our joint meetings where we had a discussion. I don't think we need to make any action on that, of course. We just have an open line discussion. Is that allowed?
So the agenda title will be what? Joint meeting to discuss.
How are things going? How about that? Can we use something like that? How are things going? Your positive, well, I don't want to go positive, negatives. Let's a review of the last year, of the review of the meeting of the last year.
Councilman Mosby, could it be like policies and procedures, just to go over and review those and with
Well, it's not really policy and procedure. I think they want to discuss some of the items, the highs and lows of last year that they've had of their agendized items. I believe is what their discussion they've had.
Okay, so we're going to bring it back 4 to 6 weeks, and we'll get it on the agenda, or get it on the website.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. 4 to 6 weeks for all 3 of these requests? Or just specifically?
That's what Councilmember Mosby asked for. Councilmember Mosby, can you
I
clarify?
would like to see it. I mean, I've got some items that are still out there that are scratching on a year, so. I think 4 to 6 weeks. The first two would be a presentation, and I believe a lot of the items for the fire station earthquake retrofit are available. And the retention study, again, a presentation. It's not an action item on those two.
So let me ask staff, is this a reasonable request?
We'll need to, the first two are presentations. I'll need to check with each of the chiefs and get back to you, but it seems like we should be able to come back with something in that time frame.
Okay.
And then the joint committee meeting would be a matter of scheduling, so I'll have to check with the city clerk on that.
Okay, so the
And the
request
commission.
is 4 to 6 weeks, but if it is not feasible, just get back to us then, okay? Councilmember Starbuck.
Ironically, I actually had a request tonight, no reports, but what I wanted the council to take a look at is our water rates that we charge people outside of the city limits. It doesn't match what our cost of service is, and our rationale has been, well, it's an incentive for them to annex. Well, some of the people will never annex where they are located. Part two of this is, and I'll disclose that my father sits on the cemetery board, and one of their biggest issues up there is paying half again as much for water to try and keep the cemetery green. They're on a very limited budget. They're paying the 1.5%. I think that if we were to get into the cost of service there, that we would find that we're going to wind up saving everybody in the community. Eventually everybody in the community is going to use the cemetery. To try and keep the cost down would be a better idea. And people come to Lompoc specifically to go to the cemetery. And the residents, on the other hand, that are being charged half again as much. So if we could do a review of maybe a cost of service vice the current policy we have for the 1.5 water rates, I think that we would see a big reward in the end of it. We would lose money in the utility, but on the other hand, we would be providing a better service for all of us if we wanted to discuss this later.
Councilmember Mosby.
And maybe evergreen cemetery be more evergreen?
What a concept. Yeah.
I'd back you with that.
Okay, we have a first.
I'll give him one.
Okay, so we have a second and a third.
I appreciate that. I
Okay.
think that it's going to be a good thing. My last comment.
Mayor.
You know what? I think it's going to take a little bit of time for somebody to come up with the background on that. I know it's not going to be forgotten, but I'd like to leave it at staff to work on it, because the cost analysis of, doing how many people are doing it, I don't want to push your time on that. Just, we'll work on it, so to speak.
Mr. Wilkie, did you have a comment?
I was just going to kind of follow up on that, is that even though the current 5-year cycle seems to have just started yesterday, in the 17-19 budget cycle, we will be returning to do a cost study for both water and wastewater, and I'd recommend doing it comprehensively with that review of the whole the two systems.
And when would that be then?
Well, it would be during 17-19, so that 17 is 8 months away.
Right, about 8 months. So could we just go ahead and put that on future council agendas?
To do in conjunction, to follow his recommendation?
Just so it doesn't go through the cracks?
Sure. Well, thank you.
Yeah. And then I just had another very...
Did you just have a comment on that?
We're talking about the cemetery.
And the few customers that take water.
Maybe it'd be nice to have some type of information from the cemetery board itself. If they've got this problem, we've never heard anything about it.
Well, it's not a problem with them, Councilmember Holder. I'm just mentioning that they are not in the city limits, so they are paying the 1.5%. I mean, everybody thinks that the cemetery is, but they are not. There are people farther up Magdalena Canyon that do not have the ability to annex that are being charged 1.5, and I just, we're always talking about the cost of service. I think it'd be a good little review and possibly a little savings on our tax dollars with the cost of operating the cemetery. My last comment was gonna, be, 20 years in the Navy, I retired, I came back. I've loved this town, I like Lompoc. I really want to thank Mr. Darling for his public comment earlier about one of the South County supervisors' remarks to us. I thought it was an absolute poor taste, and I think the apology was very bad. He wasn't even here, so.
Okay, Councilmember Vega.
I do have a council request, possibly within, if we can get this thing going through within 4 to 6 weeks. I'd like us to bring back the discussion on commissions and their locations for their meetings. For the sake of public transparency, we discussed this before. There's some of them that are being held in different places. And I think for public transparency and for public access, so that we can get more people to possibly attend these meetings, I'd like us to have a discussion with possible action about centralizing where our commission meetings are, so that our commissioners feel the value of the exposure of having public comment, so they can make better decisions. I think that possibly just, for instance, public safety, I can tell you that the commission meetings, yes, I understand where they're centralized, but there's no room and no seating for the public if they really wanted to attend. I think that I'd like to make that request, that we bring that back.
Could I offer a suggestion? That we are scheduled for the amendment to the Commission and Committee Handbook on October 18th on the consent. If we could put it under unfinished business, we could take care of it on October 18th.
And that's with possible action also, too,
Yes,
so we can discuss that?
If you can get the 3, and I'll approve it if you wanted to
Yeah,
go that route.
I'm good with that, as long as we can make something happen here.
I'll give him a third.
Okay.
And also, on behalf of Mayor Lingle, as Mayor Pro Tem, I attended the installation of officers for the Filipino American Club here from Lompoc at the Shumash Casino. And they were thrilled to have a representative of the city council there, and it was a nice event. And as Mayor Pro Tem, I fill in whenever they have too many things on their agenda, so thank you. I wanted to let you know. It was a great event.
Thank you for
Thanks
doing it
very
for me.
much.
Okay, Councilmember Humble. Nothing, okay. And I have nothing. I did not go to any meetings. I spent city money, so. Okay, if there's nothing else, this meeting is adjourned to a regular city council meeting of October 4th at 6:30 PM here at City Hall. Thank you.